Howdy do, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And welcome to a very festive episode 214.
Yes.
Have you ever thought what it's like to be wanderers in the fourth dimension?
Nobody in the universe can do what we're doing.
I've reversed the polarity of the neutron flow, so the TARDIS should be free of the force field now.
There's no point in being grown up if you can't be childish sometimes.
The trouble with time travel is, one never seems to find the time.
Change, my dear, and it seems on a moment too soon.
Unlimited rice pudding, etc., etc.
I am the Doctor!
Great men are forged in fire. It is the privilege of lesser men to light the flame.
I'm the Doctor. This is Rose Tyler. She's my +1. Is that all right?
That would be me.
Hello. Surprise!
Boom, etc.
I'm the Doctor. Do everything I tell you, don't ask stupid questions, and don't wander off.
How can you kid this? I don't like the colour.
Howdy do, Who fans. Hope you're all keeping well. Hope you had a cracking week and that you've all managed to do something Doctor Who related.
Yes.
It's close to the big day now, dude.
It really is. Well, we're recording this on Wednesday, so we're less than a week.
Less than a week away. It's come round.
There.
It's come round quick, isn't it? We said
Always
it every
does.
year, but yeah. Always comes round quick.
It does seem like the years go quicker, though, doesn't it? I mean, this year, blimmin' heck. It's flown by, isn't it?
It has indeed.
1 minute, Series 11 is 9 months away. Yeah. And the next thing you know, it's all over. Just like that.
Just like that, mate.
Just like that. Yeah, just like that. Yeah, it is incredible.
For a Doctor Who fan, I think the years are getting longer.
Do you?
Yeah.
Mm.
I think as you get older, the years sort of whiz by a bit quicker, as you just said. But I think from a fan's perspective, for Who, I think, especially when we have huge breaks, you know, because we didn't have any Doctor Who all year, did we, until between the Christmas special and December? Did we?
December, yeah.
So, no, November. When did Series 11 kick off?
That's what I was trying to think. When did it kick off?
Was it November?
No, it must have been October, because November, yeah, because I was thinking they mentioned Halloween, didn't they? But it was weird because it was a week after.
Yeah, it
so
was
I reckon
October.
it must have been November.
No, it was the second week of October.
Oh, was it? Right, yeah.
Sorry, yeah. So we had nothing. So we had the Christmas special, and then nothing until October. And now we're going to have the New Year's Day special, and then we're going to have nothing until 2020.
Yeah, so, goodness knows when in 2020.
Exactly, yes. I think for a Doctor Who fan, it can feel a little bit crikey. It's a long time to wait.
It is, yeah. It's going to be interesting, I think, to see how things go next year, if you know what I mean, because it will be strange not to have anything apart from that New Year's Day special. But I think I'm in a weird way, I'm quite looking forward to it, because, you know, before Series 11, we were doing our sort of mixed reviews of Doctor Who, Classic Who, Sarah Jane Torchwood, and I'm just thinking I'm quite looking forward to a year of just that, you know. And then I think by the time the sort of Series 12 does come round, I think I'll be ready for it, you know. I mean, I think anyone listening to last week's podcast, I think I never want to watch Doctor Who again, you know. Far from it. I think we need to have a break, but like Rachel and Ross in Friends, we need to have a break.
Indeed, no, Rachel.
And I think it will do us good. I think it will do us both good. I hope. I think by the time the Series 12 comes around, I'll be ready for it. I think a year and goodness knows how many months is enough to whet the appetite, no matter what your thoughts on Series 11.
Oh,
I think
of course,
it's enough to get you excited again. Yeah.
We'll be up for it.
Yeah,
indeed. Yeah,
I'm slightly more excited for the New Year's Day special actually, because they had some press screening last night, and of course it's all kicking off on Twitter. They're all like, "Oh, spoilers are out, spoilers are out." Yeah. But I'm not, because I wasn't particularly enthralled by Series 11. I'm not that bothered about the spoilers, so I don't really care if it is ruined for me, to be honest. I'm just so, but it's I think that, so you've got to be a bit careful if you go on Twitter. I think there's a few things floating around, but the press reaction, from what I understand, has been quite positive for it, so that bodes well.
That does, that's a good sign. Yes.
I'm surprised they did one, considers Chibbers wants to keep everything so under wraps. I'm surprised he let the press in. If
It's probably not his decision.
No.
Got to do it.
Got to be
Because
done.
the press will be hungover and partying and all the rest of it at their little awards, whatever they do end of the year. So they'll be next to useless, won't they? So they have to do it now.
I see. I'm with
the
you.
parties kick in. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, it'll be it'll either be one extreme to the other. They have sort of drunken press people like, "Oh, it was amazing. I can't get over how great in the modern classic," and then you got the other lot. "Oh, it was bloody awful."
Yeah.
So yeah, get it now out the way while everyone's sober.
I must admit, I am really hoping I enjoy it. I can't remember the last Christmas special that really I sort of thought that was really good. I think it's in the Tennant era. I haven't really liked them. And obviously this is slightly different because it's a New Year's Day special instead of Christmas. So I am looking forward to it. I just hope I come away from it feeling a bit more positive about our new TARDIS team. Really, I hope it's not another nail in the coffin for me. In other words, I really hope that the year gets off to a good start, and when it finishes, the feeling I want to have at the end of the New Year's Day special is, now I'm excited for the next series. You know what I mean? I don't want it to end and me be like, oh dear, oh well, see you in 2020, guys. I don't want to be like that. I want to be like, yeah, bring on 2020. Let's wish a year of my life away for Doctor Who. You know what I mean? So yeah,
I completely agree with you, mate. I'm hoping that after Resolution has gone out, we're all fired up and chomping at the bit for 2020. I mean, I don't even know when in 2020 it's going to. They said early, so I'm imagining it's early. What's early? That's January, or it could be April. We don't know.
Yeah.
So. Who knows? It could be a year and a half's wait, all in all. I don't know, but yeah, let's get chomp. Let's hope that this one sort of kicks us off and gives us a proper big epic ending as well. So we just sat there with hair on end and eyes wide open and like, yay! I can't wait for series 12. 12, yeah.
12, yeah. Weirdly, I keep going to say series 20. I think because it's in 20, I keep going, I can't wait for series 20. I'm like, what? Yeah, series 12.
Series 12, yes.
But before we get to series 12, shall we reflect a little on series 11?
Yes, so we got a slightly different show. Normally we do some news and merch and our review and so on. None of that today. I haven't really seen any big news bits. I think the only couple of bits I've seen is sort of consolidated figures for the finale and so on. But in a nutshell, it was 6.5 something million viewers overall. There's no real merch, decent merch anyway to speak of. So we're going to scrap the news and merch and review and stuff. We're going to do a year in review. We're going to do our top best bits and our top not so good bits of 2018 for Doctor Who. Then you guys have sent us loads of questions. We're going to do some Q&A on Who, obviously. We're going to announce our competition winners. We got those two very, very cool season 19 Blu-ray box sets to give away. Thank you to zoom.co.uk. Thanks, guys, for that. So we'll announce those winners, and then that'll be it. We'll be out of here.
Yeah.
And also a reminder, I did tell you guys last week, but just a reminder, this is our last show of the year. So after today, we won't be back. Adam and I are going to take a couple of weeks off for Christmas and New Year. So we won't be back until Friday, the 11th of January. So no podcast the next 2 weeks. Friday, the 11th of January, we'll be back, and it will be our review of the New Year's Day special Resolution. And then after that, so Friday, the 18th onwards, we'll be back into our normal rotation of New Doctor Who, Classic Doctor Who, Torchwood, and Sarah Jane. Which, like you said, mate, it's going to be good.
Yeah. I'm particularly looking forward to carrying on the Sarah Jane reviews.
Yes.
Particularly looking forward to that. We just got on to series 2, didn't we? Did we do the first?
Yes, we did the first series.
Yeah, we just cracked series 2. Yeah.
That'll be good. Looking forward to that.
Yes, me too.
So, year in review. Let's get it rocking.
Okay.
What shall we do first? The good or the not so good? What are we feeling?
Let's talk about let's start on a high. Let's talk about some of the good stuff.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I've noted down a few.
Won't take long. No, I'm only joking.
I've noted down a few things. I'll kick off then. So the first thing that I really liked was the secrecy and the not having everything thrown in your face before Series 11 kicked off. So we said this throughout most of the year, didn't we? That the Chibbers had got a very tight grip, or has got a very tight grip on things getting leaked and spoilers. We did have a few leaks, didn't we? We had a few moments here and there, but they were nothing compared to the previous years where Russell T. Davies and the Moff were in charge of things. And the things that we did have were very controlled, weren't they?
Oh, so definitely.
And I think that was really, I just really like the whole mystery around the series especially as we got closer to it, because in previous years, especially in the Moff era, we would get everything shown to us before the series went out. Do you remember?
You could literally, I think, sometimes even piece together the story just from all the spoilers and photos, couldn't you? In the Moff, in the Capaldi era, I think for Series 10 in particular, all the shots of the Cybermen, and I was thinking, well, we can pretty much see exactly what's going to happen. So there was way too much, and they definitely reined that in. I agree with you. I think it's a really good thing.
It was a good way of just having everybody on the same page as well, because depending on how active you are on social media and so on, you might not have seen. So you mentioned the Capaldi era, especially Series 10. There would have been obviously a lot of fandom would have seen all of the on-set photographs and the photographs of all the monsters and all that stuff and locations and everything beforehand. And like you said, you can almost piece together the story. But if you weren't that active on social media, you wouldn't have seen all of that. So you would have heard stuff. But what I mean is there would have been quite an uneven expectation going into the episode, because a lot of people would have seen stuff. Whereas with this one, it felt like everybody was on more of a level playing field, if you know what I mean. So
I do see what you mean. Yeah.
So we all went in, or most of us went in, into the unknown, if you like.
And I'll tell you what, it was lovely. That's one thing I will say about Series 11. It was lovely going into pretty much every episode, just having no idea what was going to happen.
A 3-second trailer, and that was it.
3 second, the trailers were so short. They were literally blinking, you'll miss it, weren't they? Don't blink. But it was. I mean, that is one thing I absolutely agree with you on that. It was brilliant each week to just think, right, I have no idea what's going to happen in this. It's, no idea of the story. I don't know what, I was going to say what villains or baddies are going to pop up, but we'll get to that later. But, it was great to go into each story fresh. And I know exactly what you mean about being on the same page, because you feel like everyone's experiencing it together. So, whereas, you're absolutely right. Whereas previous years, you've probably already chatted with your friends about things you've seen and are coming up. Oh, we've got the Mondasian Cybermen this week and all that. This time, none of us know. And then, so you're all jumping in afterwards saying, oh, Rosa and all this. So it was great to, like you said, all be going into it pretty much on the same page. Yeah.
Yes. I like it.
I do. That's a good plus. Yeah.
Yeah. And I hope they continue that in 2020. And as we get sort of closer to the series as well, I hope that the Chibbers keeps that firm grip on, because that's one thing that I do respect him for, because it must be extremely difficult to manage that and keep it all under wraps. So
I was just going to say that it must be really difficult. I mean, we just briefly mentioned the press screening for the New Year's Day special, and obviously there's going to be leaks from that. It's just going to happen. But it must be really hard to keep it under wraps. And do you remember the Twitter group that used to stalk the filming of the DS or whatever they were called.
DWSR.
The hashtag.
Yeah.
They used to thrive on posting filming pictures, didn't they?
Yeah.
And posting as many spoilers as possible. And even they couldn't get anywhere near it pretty much this year. In fact, I haven't heard or seen of them at all, I don't think.
The Chibbers has killed them off. Yeah.
He's killed them off. And I'm nothing against those guys. If that's what they want to do, go for it. But it has been great how well he's managed to clamp down on sort of these people sneaking in and taking pictures of the filming, because I guess a lot of it was filmed abroad as well, which probably helped.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Unless they're going to get a first flight ticket to where were they? Spain and all sorts of places. But
all over. Yeah.
They did, they definitely travelled abroad. They got out of Wales a lot more this year, didn't they?
Oh, absolutely.
So,
you could tell as well. You could tell.
Apart from the forest, they spent a lot of time in the forest this year. But yeah, apart from that, they were abroad a lot, which probably helped.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So one of my pluses, I mean, that's a great one to start with, actually. I hadn't thought of that, but it's a really good one. One of the pluses for me was I absolutely loved the opening closing credits with Segan's new theme. I mean, it's just one of the things I just think the Chibbers absolutely got right.
Yeah,
for me, it enhanced sort of the classic era and brought it right up to date. And it's weird because when I watch that, to me, the way the theme sounds and the graphics and everything, I kind of think, well, that's how it should have been when it first came back. It's just, it emulates everything about the classic and new combined. And so that for me was a big thumbs up, was Segan's opening and closing theme and the graphics that went with it. Very sort of Pertwee-esque.
Yes,
almost, and Harnell-esque, actually, this sort of bubble with all these colours. And, I just loved that. And every week, it drew me straight into the episode. I just loved the intro. I like the fact we didn't have any pre-credit scenes as well. It was none of that. We used to sometimes, especially in the RTD era, get like a little 2-minute bit of the episode, then we'd get the credits, then we're back into the episode. Mm-hmm. And I like the fact that they didn't do that at all this year. It's just theme straight into the episode, like just like it sort of used to be. So that was a big plus for me. And I mean, I guess I could tie Segan's music into it. I'm sure that's one of your highlights as well. I do think he gave a very fresh feel to the series. It's so different from Murray's music. And I love both equally, but that, I thought it really suited the style of the show this year. So I'm sort of going to tie Segan's music in with that.
Yes. No, I agree with you. That was on my list, but not sort of it was like an honourable mention a bit later on. Yeah. But I'll mention it now. So yeah, Segan's score. I mean, I completely agree with you. The opening theme and the intro is it's just one of the best things about Series 11 for sure. It just looks so good. It's like the quality of the graphics and the animation. It's just how it looks, and the score's really classic. It leans on the classic theme a lot, and because you're absolutely right, it's completely different to Murray's music. So not just the theme, but the music throughout all of the episodes as well. I think Murray's music was a bit more, what's the word? Sort of bombastic, I would say.
It was a lot more orchestral, wasn't it? This was more simplified. He had a few sounds, and you could sort of imagine it was one guy doing it, whereas Murray sounds very much full band a lot of the time.
Yes, yeah. So I think, I think you'll agree with me when I say that Segan's music isn't necessarily better or worse than Murray's. I think it was just done in a different way, and it provides a much bigger contrast to what we had with Murray's music. So Murray's music, it was based around common themes throughout an entire Doctor's era, really. If you could probably pick out half a dozen Matt Smith episodes or Capaldi episodes, and you'll hear the same bit of music used in all of those episodes, Yeah. Whereas Segan's music, it felt like he really studied the script for each individual episode and then wrote his music for that particular story and that particular episode, I think there was a couple of recurring themes, like the Doctor's theme. I think it's called 13 or something like that. You had that, but he also tweaked it slightly depending on the situation as well.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of storytelling, the music was a lot more applied to the story rather than just Doctor Who. Murray Gold's music was just very much Doctor Who, and you could play a couple of Murray Gold's music for any Doctor and it would fit. Whereas this one, it was more about the story rather than the Doctor, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like the Demons of the Punjab episode, when he did the sort of variation of the theme at the end to suit the episode, and it just led into it beautifully. And I thought, I like that. Nice little touches like that. I really like Segan's music. I can see, the only thing I can see the difference between Segan's and Murray's really is that in season 12, I do think Segan will have to mix up the sounds a little bit. Not necessarily his style, because I love it, but he does. Each episode had the same synth sounds pretty much, in each one. Okay. He just sort of adapted the style to the episode, which I really liked. But I think going into the next series, I'm trying to think of that. If you think of the very beginning of Demons of the Punjab, you have that he uses that slow synth sound to come in when they're just talking, and it's I think he's done that a few times. So we can't keep having that. He's got to mix it up a bit more in series 12, and I think he will, because he just seems to be that kind of composer where he just loves to experiment and use different sounds and stuff. So but it's a big plus for me. What I'm trying to get to is I'm really looking forward to seeing what he comes up with for the next series.
Of course, what I mean. Yeah. There is one little thing that I would like to see, and it's only for my own personal greed, really. And that is one thing that I did like about Murray Gold's music is that he did, although he had these big themes, these big rocking themes sometimes, he did have a knack of writing almost humorous sounding music, if that makes sense. Like, I
do. Yes, I do know exactly what you mean.
Do you know what I mean? Like Donna's theme is quite sort of happy-go-lucky, quite uplifting and funny. And there was just a few little moments like that where he had these not sort of carry-on film funny, in your face sort of funny, but just these uplifting, nice little, almost humorous kind of little pieces in there. And we didn't have any of that, really. Segan's music was quite serious and emotional and leaning more towards that era. So that spectrum of music. So I'd like in Series 12 for there to just be a little bit more of a uplifting, little happy bit of stuff going on. Not a lot, but you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean. Yeah, I'm thinking of Bill's theme as well. That lovely.
Bill's,
I loved Bill's theme.
Yeah.
Gosh, I hope we get Series 10 soundtrack one day. Thinking about it. Yeah, I love Bill's theme. It was quirky. That quirkiness where Segan's music is more atmosphere, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Whereas Murray's like little nuggets of music, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Segan is more about underlaying the atmosphere of the episode. So very different styles. Yeah.
Of course.
But because Chibbers wanted this totally fresh feel to Series 11. I think that's why it worked for me, because it did feel totally different.
Yeah.
And it did suit the episodes. But that's what I mean by moving forward. Now we've established that. I think sort of need to up the ante a little bit in Series 12. I would need him to push the boundaries a bit more, I think. And I mean that in a positive way, because I really liked what he did in Series 11.
Yes, absolutely, mate. Yeah. Another cool thing for me, and that is that Doctor Who, this series, this year, it really did feel like it was back in the mainstream of TV and the sort of culture, TV culture this year. So whether you liked it or you didn't like it, it doesn't matter. Doctor Who was back on our screens in a bit of a force to be reckoned with, I'd say, because there was a concern, wasn't there? Because you and I have spoken about ratings in the Capaldi era and so on, back when we were reviewing Series 10 and 9 and so on. And there was always that concern because whichever way you spin it, prior to Series 11, the ratings were going down. There's no way you can't dress it up, nicely, unfortunately. Yeah. So it's really cool that in Series 11, they came back strong. We had a really, really good opening. The Woman Who Fell to Earth cracked in. I think it was a really high. Was it 7-odd million or 8 million?
I think by the end, wasn't it like 11 million? It beat The Bodyguard, which I think the BBC were completely, because the BBC loved The Bodyguard. They were like, oh, look at our lovely this new show. They couldn't get over it. It was on the BBC News how well it did in the ratings, and then Doctor Who come over and actually did better. And they were like, they probably couldn't believe it. The BBC are like, what, Doctor Who still pulling in the figures? Oh,
yeah, precisely.
So that was quite something, actually. Yeah.
So I'm really sort of happy and proud that I don't know the best way to describe it. You and I have called it our little show before. Do you know what I mean? It's just really cool that
our little show.
Yeah, that our little show that has been in decline over the last few years in terms of ratings. It's just sort of come back with a bit of a slap in the face for TV and competed with the best of them, I'd say. I mean, you're never going to beat those big seasonal type programs in the UK like X Factor and Strictly Come Dancing. They're just too big a behemoth to take on in terms of a small sci-fi drama show, I guess.
Yeah.
But it was just really cool that, the ratings were up. People were talking about it more. And like I said, whether you loved it or hated it or you had something to say, it doesn't really matter. It was just there. It was Doctor Who was back. It was on all the magazines for a while. Ratings were up. So I thought that was a great thing for Doctor Who.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, it was lovely to see it on the front of the, all the TV listings, mags, and people were talking about it. It was definitely back in the, in the sort of mainstream. I mean, I remember sort of driving, somewhere in the car and hearing somebody on the radio talking about Rosa. She was saying, "Oh, I'm a teacher and I've been showing it to my kids in school. And did you watch Doctor Who last night?" And the DJ was talking, and I was thinking, this is great. It's the people watching it. I'd sort of go round. I went down the pub and after it was after Rosa, I think, and some friends of mine they never watch it. There's a sort of group of friends I've got that are just they love to take the mickey. Doctor. And they were like, "Oh, that Doctor Who was quite good this week, wasn't it? Yeah, I actually watched that one," and all this sort of thing. And also to see. It was nice to see Doctor Who merch back on the shelves because it's good to see it when you go out as well. Yeah. I don't mean just like the sort of usual tap that I pick up, but I mean it was actually nice to go into sort of I'm trying to think of a mainstream store, but like the calendar club, all the calendars were everywhere, all the Doctor Who calendars, and Argos had got all the Sonics and figures in, and I'd go. There is a toy shop quite close to me that I go in that has a lot of Funko Pops, and they'd got the Sonic and the Jodie doll, and it was just nice to see Doctor Who merch back on the shelves in little independent shops, as well as instead of having to go to Forbidden Planet because that's the only place that has it. It was just nice to see Doctor Who back in other little stores as well, and just seeing that it is actually getting out there again. Because I mean, I don't think we'll ever go back to the sort of glory years of Woolworths of when we used to. I mean, when Tennant was the Doctor, you couldn't go anywhere without sort of seeing Doctor. Like Tesco's used to have all the figures, and it's amazing. Toys R Us used to have like whole big racks of Doctor Who display, and it was incredible. And I'd love to get back to that, but things change. Like there is no Toys R Us in the UK anymore and stuff like that. So, but it was just nice to see what we do have stocking Doctor Who merch again.
Yes,
and for it just basically just being out there again.
Yeah, because the big Forbidden Planet store in London really needed it as well. I think for about, I'd say a good 3 or 4 months that you and I were frequenting that store, we always noted that it just looked like some sort of, car boot sale that had been ransacked and just looked
it looked terrible. I think
awful. Yeah.
If you go back and listen to one of our podcasts before Series 11, we went in, didn't we, about a month or two before. And I think we said something along the lines of, I really hope after Series 11 we come in here and this shelf's been restocked because it looked barren, didn't it? Those couple of months before we went in. Yeah, it's like a couple of old Titans just rattling around on the shelf and their little display cabinet, all the figures had fell over and were covered in dust, and there was like one Tom Baker scarf hanging on a rail, and it was bad. It
was grim, wasn't it, for a while? Yeah.
It was grim, yeah. So it's nice to see not just the merch side of it, but just like you said in general, really nice to see it just being more prominent, everywhere.
Yeah. So that was cool. The other thing on my list to sort of close off the good bits is Bradley Walsh.
I've got him on my list.
You've got it as well. Yeah.
I wasn't sure if that was a funny thing because I've just written Bradley Walsh. Yeah.
What an unexpected, just awesome thing to come out of Series 11. It was. I wouldn't say that before Series 11 started I was worried about it, but there was definitely a level of apprehension because the Chibbers had kept everything so tight-lipped and nobody was allowed to say how much he was going to be in the show for a start. We didn't know if he was going to be a quote-unquote proper companion or whether he was just going to be a recurring character like Wilf maybe or something like that. So we had no clue on how often he was going to be in it and how much, and his relationship to the other characters and stuff, which added to the good point earlier about not knowing so much about it. But it's always a strange one where you have someone else who's not really known for their strong acting chops coming to the show. And he's just, I think a lot of people are in the same opinion, that he's kind of stole the show a little bit over the series for me. It's every episode he's had a belter. The only exception is Kablam, where he looked a little bit bored. But other than that, I think every episode he's had these awesome moments. He's been funny, he's been emotional, consistent. And I'm really missing not watching him now. I can't wait to see what they're going to do with his character in the next series. I can't wait. He's just been brilliant.
Yeah, I would absolutely echo that. And I knew he could act because I've seen him in other things. So I thought, yeah, okay, I thought he would be decent. I didn't expect him to be as good as he was. I was worried that he might be a bit. I was worried he might sort of go a bit over the top when he was announced. So there was this sort of cheeky, chappy side to him. And I thought I could see him perhaps playing it a little bit annoying at times, but he totally did. And his performance, I think the word you used is consistent. And I think that perfectly sums up how good he was just every week. And he was the most realistic in terms of his acting. He was absolutely highlight. I mean, Series 11 would be so much the poorer if he wasn't in it. You know, I think he really brought it up week after week. I mean, even episodes that I was sat there thinking, my goodness, this is poor. You know, he always shone. A bit like he's a bit of a Matt Smith, isn't he? Even in a poor episode, as soon as he comes on screen, he kind of like, oh, here's Bradley. And you sort of wake up again. And he was definitely one of the best things about Series 11. Without a doubt, a highlight, yeah.
Yes. And if you think about some of the other characters, we've said that Jodie as the Doctor, we've said that she's had strong episodes and not so good episodes. We've said that Tosin Cole, has been great. I mean, they've all been fairly consistent, but they've had episodes where they've written them with, decent stuff to do. And then other episodes, they've not had much to do. And they've had a bit of an off one, I suppose. And the same with all of them. But with Bradley Walsh, she's just been consistently bang on, I would say, in his writing and his performance as an actor. He's just... sometimes people just get it. They just know exactly what's required of their character. They don't overdo it. They don't, if anything, I would say that he underplayed a few of his performances.
That's what I mean. Yeah, he didn't go OTT, just underplayed it, and he pitched it perfectly week after week.
Perfect, yeah. So for me, he was a highlight for sure in 2018.
I would describe him as being the heart of the series. For me, he brought the emotion and the heart and soul of Series 11 for me.
Yeah.
So
he's the Ray Stantz of the TARDIS team, the heart of the Ghostbusters. Yeah, he's like the one. I don't get what you mean. Yeah, he's the
heart and soul of it.
Yeah.
The only other pluses really I've got. Really, I mean, I love the style and look of the series. I mean, it looked week after week, it looked incredible. The budget, obviously, it was nice to see the BBC getting behind the show again a bit. I mean, you could tell that they just totally lost interest by Series 10, the BBC. Or it certainly felt that way anyway. So it was nice to see it back looking. I mean, I think it looks the best it's ever been.
I think so.
The style, the cinematography, the landscape, the locations, everything about it, apart from the frog, which looked dodgy, but you think that's intentional, so maybe it was. But it just week after week, it looked incredible. It looked really high budget. It looked like the BBC cared about it. It looked like they were invested in it. And that really did help, I think. It was, even when it was perhaps a bit slow in places, it was always just great to look at. It was never sort of, it looks stylish, so they really got the look and feel of it, and the effects and everything looked great. There's no sort of new viewer out there that's going to be saying, oh, see, wobbly sets, oh, Doctor Who. You can't lay claim to that anymore with this series. No. That all gone out the window. And I just, bringing in with the style of the series, I also just loved the TARDIS exterior. It wasn't on screen enough for me. Every time it was on screen, I just loved how the TARDIS looked. So I'm going to tie that in with the style of the show. It just looked beautiful this year, the TARDIS.
Yeah. No, I echo that.
The outside.
The outside, yes.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all I've got as well for the good stuff. The only one last little thing I'd like to say is it's also been another really good year of meeting up with our listeners at various events.
Yes.
Throughout the year. So alongside the big Comic-Cons, if you like, that we went to, there's also those smaller events like the BFI showings, and you went off to the Westminster signing event and stuff. And I think you've been to a couple of the smaller, is it the Phantom events?
Phantom, yeah.
So just meeting up with our listeners and spending the day chatting Doctor Who and having a drink and all that stuff. Pop into Forbidden Planet. It's just really cool that we've met so many awesome people through the podcast. And it's really nice when we have the time and these events to go and say hi and chat to people. So that will be a highlight for me every year, I would say. But yeah, just another little thing to throw in there is meeting up with all you lot. It's all good.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Yeah.
Not so good.
Not so good then. Oh, blimey.
Not
Where do we
so
start?
Good stuff. So I've got 4 things on my list.
Have you?
Yeah. Do you want to go first? I went first last time. So
go. Oh, all right. Well, I mean, the biggest minus for me this year really has been the lack of memorable villains and monsters.
Okay.
Because for me, Doctor Who doesn't need to have it every week, but we didn't get it at all this series. I didn't think. I'm even Tim Shaw, I'm going to say, was a pretty poor monster, and he was the best of a bad bunch, really.
Yeah.
We didn't get any good monsters, no memorable villains at all, I don't think, this series. And I think that is pretty poor. I mean, Doctor Who is about a lot of things, but one of the things that people associate with Doctor Who is the monsters. You want to be scared, and one of the things we just didn't get from Series 10, and I think it's quite shocking over 10 episodes, is we didn't get one decent villain or monster.
Yeah.
And I think that's inexcusable, really. I don't think, I still can't quite believe it. Even just saying out loud, I just can't believe it that we didn't get one decent villain or monster.
Yeah, mate. Well, this kind of ties into, because my first one is a bit generic, really. And it's just that the storytelling overall for Series 11 has not been fantastic.
No.
And it's a shame, really, because I can see what the Chibbers is trying to do. He's trying to get away from the formula that's been in place for years. And that I'm guessing that all of the meetings that happened prior to them getting into production with it, with the BBC people higher up and all those people, I imagine it was something that needed to happen, but I think they just missed the mark a little bit. So I would imagine that all those meetings before, so when he got the job, and then he spoke to all the BBC executives and all those people that were in charge, I'm pretty sure there's something along the lines of, look, ratings have been slowly declining, so we need to change it up a bit. We need to do something that's going to get people back into the show, get people back watching, all the rest of it. And yes, there was the big publicity thing around a new female Doctor and all that stuff. That's fantastic. But I think just the formula of the show just needed a bit of a change. But I think they missed it. I think they went too far with it. So a cool thing I think a formula that does work, and anyone that listens to this show for a long time will know that I'm a really big fan of the X-Files. And the formula for that show, I think, is perfect. And it was very consistent in every series. And that is, you mix it up a bit. You have a kind of a story arc that runs throughout the series. So you do a bit of a Moff, where you have the, series, but you don't do it in sort of huge, in so much huge detail that you just feel like you're flooded with it all the time. So you have a bit of a story arc that runs throughout the series, but then you just inject sort of these weekly isolated creature feature stories. Where you can have like your really cool, big, scary monster for a week, but you know that he's not going to come back at the end and just get shot in the foot. Do you know what I mean? You have that kind of thing where you just mix it up a bit. And I felt like in Series 11, they played it a bit safe, I think. I think throughout the entire series, you were every week, and I imagine you were the same as me, you were thinking, right, this week we're going to get that really big, scary threat, this big, scary monster that we've been after. It's going to be this week. It's going to be this week.
Yeah, I mean, and it didn't even need to be. Yeah, it didn't even need to be scary. I mean, the thing was, when Chibber said no old monsters coming back this year, we got a fresh 10 brand new episodes with new scary monsters and all this sort of thing. I was really looking forward to what they'd come up with in terms of, as I said, didn't even need to be scary, just design wise and the possibilities of all these new creations that we were going to get to meet. And then I look back at Series 11 and I'm like, but what did we get? I mean, the spiders, they're spiders, It's
been done before.
Everything just felt really lame. And I just think that's such a shame. I was just expecting more imagination in some of the, the villains and stuff we were going to see. Because I think episodes like Rosa and Demons of the Punjab, which I really enjoyed, they, it didn't even need a monster really. I wish in a way they'd just kept them as historicals and but created a really good monster for the following week or something,
Right.
So lack of villains and monsters was a big letdown for me in Series 11. It's one of the things I would really hope they rectify in Series 12 because when you look back at the Moff era, good or bad, it gave us like the Weeping Angels for a start. I mean, they're such an iconic monster straight away. Yep. We didn't get anything anywhere near that, did we? Nothing anywhere close to that. Yeah. So I'm really hoping that we see improvement on on our gruesome creatures next year.
No, I completely agree,
or
mate.
year after even, yeah.
I agree. And you can tell that they almost got it. I mean, Tim Shaw, if you look at how he looks quite gruesome with all the teeth in his face. And they really nailed the voice as well, and that deep sort of threatening voice. So in some parts of it, they got it right. But it didn't feel like it was the complete package, because he just wasn't threatening enough to follow through on the badass kind of look and feel that they had for him.
I thought he worked. I thought he worked perfectly well in the first episode, because I thought, well, he's just there as the token villain, but really this story is about introducing the Doctor. So in terms of that, I think Tim Shaw was great in the first episode for what he was there for, and he was pretty scary. I mean, all the jaw breaking and stuff. That's kind of why I was disappointed in Chibnall, because I thought, oh, he's going back to the sort of gruesomeness, but just on the edge, not too far. But this is quite adult. He's breaking jaws. He looks menacing. He's got this face of teeth. It's quite horrific stuff. So I thought, okay, so if this is just a token villain in week 1, wow, what are we going to get for the rest of the series? But no, he turned out to be the biggest threat. And I'm thinking, but he was just the token introduction villain. And then even that, they just made him, they kind of threw it all out the window with the final, didn't they? By making him so weak and defeated so easily. I mean, it was a joke. So that's what I mean. It started off quite promising, I think, but as soon as episode 1 was out of the way, we got nothing. Yes.
So that kind of, like I said, it links into my very generic, just the storytelling overall for Series 11. That's part of it. So I won't talk about it for too much, but I just feel like they leaned, or they borrowed too often and too heavily on the themes of existing stuff already. And sometimes that can be a good thing. Sci-fi in general over the last 50 years, whatever, it's sometimes at its best when you have those common themes, regardless of the show, whether it's Blake Seven or Doctor Who or whatever, Star Wars, whatever it might be. When you borrow from those common sci-fi themes, it just builds on the genre, and it just builds, and you can do cool stuff with it. But I think for me in Series 11, they just borrowed and didn't use it enough, or didn't use it wisely in terms of how do we apply it to Doctor Who. So like we've had themes like The Predator, that was Tim Shaw really, especially episode 1. And then we've had other themes, like when we in the first 3 or 4 episodes, I was like, oh, this week it's basically a copy of whatever.
Yeah, so, that's right. Yeah.
It just felt like that they had looked at really successful sci-fi films and themes and thought, right, we'll use that in this episode. But it was almost in some respects a carbon copy and didn't really tweak it enough. So I think for me overall, just Series 11, we had some standout episodes which were fantastic, but overall it just felt like, we just need a bit more I think we just need a bit more Who overall, I think.
Yeah, because I think you said it. I think they went a bit too far. They wanted to make it fresh and sort of accessible to a new audience, which is all great. But I think you're right. I think they just took it a little bit too far by throwing out a lot of the sort of history of the show as well. And I mean, it was great to see the Cybermen and the Daleks getting a rest. I really was. I don't think we needed them in this series, but we did need something that was at least half their equivalent.
Yeah.
Because I keep thinking of the younger audience as well. I don't think there was anything in there really to hook in the sort of younger fan base of the series. There was nothing for them to sort of get. They might have liked the Pating possibly, but I just don't. There was nothing really for the younger audience, I don't think.
No, I agree. Yeah. Second thing on my list is the sonic screwdriver.
Yeah, man.
Which I guess ties into my first point, but I just felt I was really up for it as well. When they first announced it, and it was completely different. Completely gone away from the metallic. The sharp edges and the very technology-based thing where it's all neat, very well designed and stuff. This felt very organic and very just like in the series, really, just knocked up in a garage somewhere. It had that really cool feel to it, and it was fresh. And again,
I loved that scene. I remember thinking, awesome. I really like this. Doctor's building stuff and using what she's got around her. That was a really nice, and the bit at the end with the microwave and all that. I loved all that stuff. Yeah. It
was awesome, wasn't it? Really good. And I thought, this is going to be great. We've got a new direction for it now. It didn't feel like your typical sci-fi design. That's what I'm trying to say. It didn't feel like all the others and stuff. It had an organic feel to it, but then it just sort of overstayed its welcome a little bit as we went through each episode, because pretty much every scene where the Doctor's trying to either disable something or figure something out or get through a door, whatever, it was always, right, let's rely on the Sonic instead of relying on her wits and a plan and a bit of an 18 moment where she constructs something. I was really hoping for that, you know. You mentioned that scene at the end of episode 1 where she makes that big device out of just rubbish.
Yeah.
I was really hoping that was going to be a theme for the series, where each episode, not every episode, but we would see her in a bit of a tight fix with the companions. How do we get out of it? Oh, let's make something cool. A bit of a Third Doctor vibe, really.
She did do it. Was it in Divas of the Punjab? She made something, and we thought we quite liked that. Then we said, because the Sonic couldn't do it, so she had to use her brains. I thought that would have been nice if we'd have seen a bit more of that, I think, because for me, it did get, the Sonic got incredibly annoying. She was waving it around like a wand, wasn't she?
Yeah.
And it was, for me personally, and some people disagree, but for me personally, and it sounds like you, it was way overused. I mean, something like the Sonic I think should be sort of a treat, you know, like in the Davison era, for example. I know it got destroyed, but before it got destroyed, he only brought it out now and again. And when he did, it's like, oh, look, it's the Sonic. Oh, I love the Sonic.
Of course.
Instead of it coming out every 30 seconds and you're like going, oh, she's using the blooming Sonic again. Because it was just used to literally move the story on every time, wasn't it? There was it was just like, yeah, oh, that's read that now and I've done that and that's what this is. And she just used it for reading everything in the storyline, and it became really annoying, I think.
It did.
So every time it got dropped or eaten or whatever, I kept thinking, oh, please let that be gone. Please let that Sonic be gone. Yeah. But no, even and she even said it as well, didn't she? I love my Sonic. And I thought, I almost felt like that was a little two fingers up to the fans, actually, who don't like it. I thought, oh, they've put that in there. But yeah, way overused, in my opinion. Yeah. I really wanted it to be destroyed. I'll tell you, I really did.
It almost felt like it became a crutch rather than a cool little thing that it's almost like I think they just tried to make the Doctor have something that was almost part of the character. So if you think about some other really cool popular franchises. So if you think about Star Wars, right? So the Jedis obviously have their lightsabers and the Sith as well. So that's like their thing, isn't it? That's like their one sort of prop, if you like, that's always with them.
Yeah.
But it's not a crutch, though. They don't need it to progress the story in any way. It's just used as like a really cool weapon when, you know, stuff goes down. Or if you think about things like The Lord of the Rings, for example, where Gandalf's staff or Legolas's bow, or, you know, those sort of things. It's part of their character. It's personal to them, but they don't need it in order to carry the story. Where in Doctor Who, I felt like they tried to do that. They tried to get the Sonic back into being almost part of the Doctor's character, and having it there. But it just felt like in some scenes you couldn't progress the story without the Doctor using it. So it became very lazy, didn't it? It was just so convenient to just how do I get out of this situation? Oh, she uses the Sonic. In terms of the writing, it was very lazy, I think. I agree with you. I think that is the thing. I think I said to you halfway through reviewing Series 11 that I said, I think I've just got to accept the Doctor and Sonic go hand in hand now. Like you said, they've made it part of the character that she always has it. It's always there, and that's the way they're writing her. So yeah, I didn't like that personally, but I think you're right. It was just the way it was done, and kind of had to accept it, really. Yeah. I think you're right there, mate. Sometimes it was just too convenient.
Yeah. Give me the tubular. I wish Ribbons had got hold of it, but he never did. Another big sort of negative for me was the TARDIS interior.
Yeah, I've got that, mate.
Was just an absolute dog's dinner, wasn't it? Just an absolute mess.
I'm sure the designer would be thrilled to hear.
I'm sorry, designer. I'm sorry. I mean, again, it's a personal thing. I'm sure some people loved it, and there were times when it was beautifully lit, but I think the fact it was hardly in the series kind of said it as well. Because the thing is with the TARDIS, I've always loved it when they explore the TARDIS. I like to think it's got all these rooms, and I like to think that Graham's got a bedroom with a football poster on the wall or whatever, and and Ryan's got a picture of, I don't know, Pamela Anderson in Baywatch or something. I don't know. Yeah. I just like to think they've got little rooms there because they spend a lot of time in there. And we didn't get to see any of the TARDIS apart from that console room. And for me, it just was way too messy. It looked very plasticky. as well. Those
true.
crystal cylinders. And then one week we got to see that the little tops of the cylinders sort of went up and down, and we were like, "What's that?"
Like a little finger moving up and down.
Little finger, yeah, little finger. And then you got the crystal in the middle of the console wobbling away in the background, looking terrible. I'm wondering if that, because you think the frog was intentionally bad. I'm thinking, and I mean this seriously, maybe the wobble was intentional as well, because
maybe. Yeah.
Well, I think maybe it was now. Now you've sort of, because I've been thinking about what you said about the frog, and I'm thinking, in terms of production, everything's so spot on, and there's no way if they wanted to fix that wobble, they could do that, couldn't they? So maybe it's a little throwback to the classic series, but it just made it look even worse. So yeah, I just couldn't get my head around the interior. We had that funny spinny TARDIS, which we only saw in
the little crystal one that lit
little
up.
Crystal TARDIS. That was strange.
The biscuit dispenser, we only saw that once.
Only saw that once. They didn't spend a lot of time in the TARDIS at all. Some people might like that, but I just personally like it when we have little scenes in there. It's very dark as well, isn't it? It's like
very, very dark. Yeah,
very dark, and a lot of it was shot in close-up. So I don't even really feel that we've explored that TARDIS. It just, I suppose as well, it really felt like a set. You know, every time they went into it, you can sort of almost imagine them filming in it. It just felt so enclosed, that set.
Right.
Whereas, Capaldi and Smith's TARDIS really felt, they used to do great big sweeping shots of when they walked into it, didn't they? And it just looked amazing on screen, that TARDIS interior. Yeah. It really did. So yeah, that was I just don't think they got the TARDIS interior right. I really don't. I'd like to see that. I think with a few tweaks, it could look all right. I'm certainly looking forward to when finally Jodie regenerates. Hopefully, it's inside the TARDIS and the whole thing blows up. Because I'd love to see those. I'd love to see those crystal things all around it explode. Because I don't think they work at all. But
no, I read you. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it was just I know what they were going for. A bit like the Sonic. They're going for the sort of organic feel and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, really didn't work for me at all. It's my least favorite interior, I think.
No, it's same for me. It's the least favourite for me. I can see what there's nothing wrong with having because if you think back to the classic years, the set was always really bright. They always had the lights up full whack, and the walls were all white and light grey and stuff, and it was really light anyway. So, and there's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing wrong with having a more darkly lit TARDIS. If you think to some of Eccleston's scenes with Rose in the TARDIS, they were quite dark, but they were lit in a slightly different way. Whereas this one, it just felt like, even though it was quite dark, you could see to the edges and the perimeter of the TARDIS still, and you could make out what's going on. Whereas this one, it just felt like, some classic Who stories where we've reviewed the sets and you've got the set finishes, but then it's just blackness and it feels like a theatre stage.
Yeah,
like there's nothing. It feels, it's got that vibe about it where you've got the stuff around it, but then it's just blackness beyond that. And it feels like they're on a stage somewhere doing a play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think the overall design as well just didn't work for me at all. It just felt like it felt like almost a mix, like a mashup of sort of Tennant and Eccleston's TARDIS interior.
And they go for that steampunky type thing, haven't they? But
that kind of thing. But yeah, it just didn't. I don't know. There's nothing about it really that it sounds awful. There's just nothing really about it that I liked, and I thought, I can't wait to get that. I can't wait, because in Davison's era, like you said, like they each had their own room. Like Adric, he had his room. At the beginning of Earthshock,
star chart on the wall, didn't he? Had his little star chart. Yeah,
the Doctor sort of knocks and goes in, and that's his room, and they have a conversation, and then Tegan's got her own room, and all the rest of it. In this one, it just, what are they doing? That the whole time that they're traveling between stories, what are they just all standing around the console?
Yeah, because they every week they looked like they were, didn't they? They looked really bored. Like, where are we going this week then, Doctor? You still can't control it. They just stood in the console room, and and it's the sort of set as well where I can't imagine it going off anywhere. Like, I'm thinking, is there a door to the rest of it, or it didn't. Yeah, it felt very bitty and incomplete.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one extreme to the other. If you think about the exterior, like you said, of the TARDIS, it's beautiful.
Beautiful.
And then the very only couple of scenes where we saw it flying through the new design of the time vortex.
Vortex, that was good.
That was all amazing. So that part of it with the TARDIS was absolutely beautiful and amazing. And then you're in the other extreme where you're inside and it just looks like, I don't know, someone's just... I don't want to go about it too long, but
it looks unfinished, doesn't it? It looks like they've kind of like they've put some of the bits of set up, and they're like, yeah, the rest of it's arriving from IKEA next week, but well, this will do for now. Yeah. Just shoot it in close up.
So I agree with you, mate. The TARDIS interior just didn't cut the mustard for me.
Didn't do it for me. No, I hope they tweak it. You know, like they did Capaldi's. They look at it and they think, oh, well, let's soften the lights around the edge and let's make it. I hope they sort of tweak it somehow.
Yes.
And make it look better. Yeah. Get rid of those funny little finger movements on the top of the crystals. They're weird.
That's so funny. Yeah. Last thing I've got on my list, mate, for things that weren't so good, and that is fandom. Fandom, yes. Now, I'm fully aware, I'm 100% aware that this is never going to go away and it's never going to be fixed and it will always be a problem. But I thought that this year, specifically, I've never seen so much arguments and just kicking off all the time about Doctor Who on Twitter and Facebook. It was rife this year in the run-up to Series 11. And we've had it at various pockets throughout 2005 onwards. You know, you've seen it. Fandom will always be that way. But I think especially this year and sort of the last half of 2017, after the announcement that we had a new female Doctor, it just went crazy. And it feels like Doctor Who fans have, well, some Doctor Who fans anyway, have sort of taken on an extra level of, I'm going to tell you what I think, even if I'm going to be a rude so-and-so. I'm going to tell you what I think because this is my show, it's my Doctor and all the rest of it. It just feels like there was an extra level of that going on. And it just, and there were some points, because you and I had to say it, didn't we, at various points, that, like, look, you've all got your opinion and you've all got something to say about it, but just don't be a dick about it.
Yeah.
Just be civil and nice. We all love the show, right or wrong, you know, love it, hate it, whatever. Let's just be cool and don't be a dick. And just, because there was some real nasty stuff going around.
It was getting points. A bit thing. I mean, I'm all for people being passionate about the show. I'm all for that. But you've got to respect people's opinion.
Yes.
And you've got to expect that people have got a different opinion to you. I mean, I was getting very annoyed to people saying, well, I'm not listening to the podcast this week because you're being negative. You didn't like that episode. I won't be listening this week. And I'm like, well, that's, you know, why does that, why it's just a different opinion to you. Why can't you handle it? Why have I got to have the same opinion of you? Mm-hmm. Like, why are you getting so annoyed about it? Just, if someone's got a different opinion to me about an episode, I'll just be like, oh, really? Like, I mean, we've had different opinion. I'm like, oh, really? I didn't think it was that good, but oh, did you like it? Oh, okay. I don't say, well, I'm not listening to you until next week then, because like, I don't agree with that. And it was this sort of air of authority with certain quarters of the fandom as well.
Yes.
Of like shouting you down and telling you you're this and you're that because of your opinion. It's like, no, I'm not that because of my opinion. I'm just saying I didn't enjoy an episode. It had nothing to do with Jodie or whatever you're accusing me of. It's, you know, and it's the first time when I've sort of really, well, at first I didn't hold back my opinion. I was just putting what I thought on Twitter and stuff. And then it's the first time when I felt like, actually, I'm not going to post that. Like, I've gone to write something and I thought, actually, I'm not going to post that because all it's going to do is attract, you know, a load of abuse, and I can't be bothered with it. Yeah, you know, I just can't be bothered to respond to people that just can't have a reasonable discussion with me. Yes, you know, they're just going to tell me I'm wrong, you know, or they're going to accuse me of being a Jodie hater or whatever. And, you know, and it's, I just, the sort of the lack of allowing people to express a difference of opinion has really got to me this year. And it does seem worse than previous years. And I think, I don't know why, because it's Jodie, it's so much more volatile this year. But I agree. Yeah. It was becoming quite, and I'm not just myself personally, but other areas of fandom as well have talked about it, just saying, you know, they've done reviews and they've been absolutely shot to bits over it, you know, and it's I don't know why. I don't know why this year, but it's been really bad.
It has been, and I'm not sure why either. I think it's, in previous years, we've had loads of tweets, emails, Facebook messages, whatever it might be, saying, really wasn't happy with what you said on this week's show. And then they would follow it up with, but I still really enjoy it. I'm still going to listen. I'm just giving you my thought that, I wasn't happy with what you said about this particular Doctor or this story, whatever. But, carry on doing the show, guys. I love it, whatever. So that's great because someone's saying, I don't agree, but, I'm certainly not going to call you, be nasty or rude or anything like that. Whereas in the last year, especially while Series 11 has been going on, we've received a few messages where someone, a few people have said, your show's absolute trash, and I'm going to stop listening because how dare you say this about so and so, and how dare you
But we can't cater a podcast to people's views. The whole point of us doing a podcast is to give our views. That's why we're on here. We're not here to cater to. But I'll give you a perfect example of a perfect sort of list, if you like. Our friend, I say friend, we've never met, but someone who's followed the podcast for a while now is a chap called Neil. And I believe his Twitter name's Brighter Moon.
Oh, Neil, yes.
So he sent us a tweet, didn't he? Because I think he loved Kablam. Hopefully I'm remembering this right.
That's
I think
correct,
he loved Kablam and we didn't. And he was sort of saying, "Oh, guys, that's a real shame because I really enjoyed this episode." He said, "Oh, well, still look forward to the podcast anyway." And then he tweeted us afterwards, didn't he? And said, "Well, I didn't agree with much of what you said, but I really enjoyed. It was very interesting to hear. It's made me think about stuff. It was really interesting to hear your views on Kablam because, you got a fair point about some of that stuff." And I thought, "Thank you, Neil." Mm-hmm. He totally different opinion to ours, but he listened to the podcast and thought, I see where they're coming from, but don't agree with it. But it's interesting to hear they thought that and I thought this. And that's the thing. When I listen to a podcast, I don't just want to hear people who agree with me. In fact, sometimes it's much more interesting to listen to a podcast and sit there shaking your head going, no, what's he talking about?
Definitely.
Wrong, you're wrong. But, I do have to agree this year. I think the message is getting through a little bit as well. It's just... It's pretty simple, really. We've all got opinions. Just respect them and don't. There's no air of authority here. You don't have to shoot someone down and tell them they're wrong. Just say, "Oh, really? Don't agree with you there, but fair enough."
Yeah, you can't argue with opinion whether it's right or wrong. That's just the thing. And
unless you're being personal. If you start getting personal, then you can say, "Oi, oi, oi." You're getting personal. But if it's just expressing an opinion about an episode,
absolutely,
yeah.
And then we can. I'm not going to do this now on the show, but, if we chat to any of you at an event at some point and a few drinks have been consumed, then we'll happily tell you, I used to listen to 2 or 3 podcasts and a couple of YouTube channels where all they did week in, week out was just say how fantastic and brilliant everything is about Doctor Who. Even if that's not the case. They just because they're either in cahoots with people who work with the show or they've gone too far down the rabbit hole to turn back and all of a sudden say it's not as good as they thought it was.
Yeah.
We're absolutely we're absolutely not that podcast at all. We will never just sit here and criticize it for the sake of it. We'll only ever do that when we truly feel that way. And we'll always try and balance it with something positive and look, for something cool in there as well. We're never just going to sit here and blast the hell out of it. Otherwise, there's no point in us doing it.
That's one thing I will say, hand on heart, is I do always genuinely try and find a balance as well, even if I've really not enjoyed an episode. So, Surrender, Conundrum, whatever it's called. I'll always look, I think, okay, I didn't enjoy that, but what was good about it? I do always try to give a balanced review. And I think on Twitter, you'll sort of put out. So I think that was the episode that broke me, where I tweeted afterwards, "What a load of drivel" or something. And my goodness, did I get some tweets? And I was thinking, well, hang on, that's only one tweet. There is more to my opinion, but no, you just want to concentrate on that. Okay, all right, fair enough. So I think we do. I think I can honestly say that we always try and find good or bad, but in any episode, we don't just run it into the ground for the sake of it.
Yeah. So I understand passionate fans, all the rest of it, but
I'm all for passion. But
it just felt like it was a bit OTT.
I'm all for passion. Sorry, that sounds a bit wrong.
Aren't we all, mate? Aren't we?
Yeah.
Depending on how many drinks, yeah.
That does lead quite nicely onto my final negative then, and this perfectly fits in what you're just saying. My final negative for the series is Jodie Whittaker, I'm afraid, and the way the Doctor was written in Series 11. I can totally see what they were going for. They wanted a quirky, fun doctor that's zany and the kids are going to love, and she's really good. And yeah, but for me, I don't think they got it right. It did feel very much at times like a carbon copy of quirky lines that the 10th Doctor or 11th Doctor might say, and that I don't think they gave Jodie her own personality in the way the Doctor was written. It just she never landed for me. I still don't really know who her Doctor is at all, really. And I don't, by the end of series 10 as well, I don't think Jodie's acting really hit the mark as well in areas. There were moments, there were glimmers of greatness, but she didn't land in her performance all the way she was written for me in series 11. And I really hope that's something that they managed to get right in series 12. And I was having a discussion with a couple of guys yesterday about Capaldi. And I think, although I liked him more than Jodie's Doctor from the start, I do think he took a while to settle down. For me, I don't think Capaldi's Doctor really landed till series 10 when he became this sort of gentle but old, wise, you know, so he was the teacher, and he really sort of founded his Doctor, I think, for me, by series 10. So, you know, definitely not writing Jodie off or anything like that, but she, really needed to calm down in her performance. I thought there was a lot of week after week gurning, silly faces. She was written so childlike as well at times, and I found it incredibly frustrating. I think week after week I was saying, I hope she's better next week, hope she's better. And you can't be saying that every week. So I really would like to see her performance tuned in a bit.
Okay.
and I'd like to see her written better, because just before I hand over to you, the one thing I was thinking about series 11, you know, two of the sort of standout episodes for me were Rosa and Demons of the Punjab. Very adult episodes in the, you know, the source material, what the rumor. And I was thinking about it. I was thinking in the middle of those two, probably the most adult episodes Doctor we've had for a very, very long time, you've got this really silly childlike Doctor. And I was thinking it's a kind of a contrast that doesn't work for me, because I hate to say this, but I was just thinking, imagine the 9th Doctor in Rosa. So take out the 11th, but the 9th Doctor. Imagine if he was written that episode, how unbelievable that episode would be with the 9th Doctor in. It's just her Doctor just didn't fit. She wasn't strong enough on screen, even in amazing episodes like that, you know. So yeah, I'd like to see Jodie improve massively in series 12.
Yeah, I read you, mate. I mean, it's quite telling that I haven't got Jodie on my good or bad section, and that's because I don't think she's either of those. That's quite telling, really. And it's a real, I wouldn't say it's a shame, but I just feel like I feel like Jodie's Doctor is a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think she's going to be okay. I think, like you've said, I think Capaldi really found his feet in series 10. But I'm just worried that the BBC, because Chibbers has been saying things like, you know, it's thrilling that the new Doctor has captured the hearts and minds of everybody. And it worries me that they think that this is awesome. It worries me that Chibbers and the people at the BBC think that the way that Jodie was written, especially, is like the best thing since Doctor Who ever. And it worries me that they think that, okay, right, we think this is amazing, so we're just going to keep this going as it is.
That's what worries me as well. And if they do, that really worries me, because I think if they write her better, she's definitely got it in her to be amazing. I do believe that. And I've said it before, I do genuinely believe a lot of it is down to the way she's written and the way she's been directed to act as the Doctor. But yeah.
No, I agree, mate. I think, don't get me wrong, I really do like Jodie Whittaker. I really do like her. And I think that she's got so much potential to be a brilliant Doctor. Really, really good. It's just the writing isn't there. The writing has just been... Do you know how frustrated we were when we were reviewing Capaldi through series 9? I don't know if your memory's that good, but we were so frustrated because week in, week out, we were thinking, right, what are they trying to write him as here? Because last week he was this type of Doctor, and now this week he's this type of Doctor. You know, what are we going to get next week? It was so up and down.
Inconsistent, wasn't he?
Exactly.
Unbelievably, yeah.
And it frustrated us to hell. And then series 10, like you said, they kind of found a flow for him. And I think,
that's right. Yeah.
You know, and I think Capaldi kind of took charge a little bit of his own destiny almost and wanted to do it a certain way. And I feel like we're going through the motions a little bit with Capaldi and Jodie. But what's frustrating is that we didn't have that with the previous 3 Doctors. So if you think about, well, Eccleston's only series anyway, but if you think about the first series of Tennant's and the first series of Matt Smith's, they were just like, boom, off the ground running. And various points throughout those Doctors' first series, it was like, crikey, that's the Doctor right there. You know, but we didn't have that with Capaldi at the beginning. Very little small moments of that. And it's the same with Jodie. It's like, she's great. She's a great actor. It's really, really good. And I feel like she's got the ingredients there. They're all there, sort of ready to become something brilliant. But it's just the writing's just, you know, she's been, and I don't know if she's had any input on how she wants to portray this Doctor and the writing and so on. But don't know. It just feels like, it feels like you've walked into the kitchen and someone's baking a cake and you've seen all the ingredients out and you think, this is going to be a belter of a cake. I cannot wait to try this. And then it comes out the oven and it's sort of sunk in the middle a little bit and it's a bit dry around the edges. And it's not just, it's not quite the cake you thought it was going to be, even though the ingredients were amazing. It just feels like that's the case with Jodie. She's on her way, but she just needs Chibbers to bugger off a little bit and bring in some really good writers to take charge of those episodes a bit more.
Oh, definitely. Because I think all the episodes where I've started to warm to her have been written by someone else. In fact, they definitely have. The other writers have written the Doctor so much better than Chibnall. He just goes for the standard silly, quirky lines all the time, you know, because I think he thinks that's who the Doctor is. But yeah, there's been not enough weight and gravitas from her. The worst thing about it is that I don't care about her Doctor. I haven't warmed to her enough to care about her Doctor, and that's the thing that's missing. Even with Capaldi, when he was sort of finding his feet, you know, early on, I still liked his Doctor because there was still enough of an edge there to think, you know, so what's going on with him, sort of thing. Yeah. But with Jodie, she's just so fluffy and lightweight and zany all the time. I just don't feel a connection with her enough to care. You know, like I can honestly say if they replaced her tomorrow, I wouldn't care. I'd love to, just don't feel any sort of connection with her at all, really, which is the thing that frustrates me the most, really.
Yes, yeah. No, I read you because as I was going through over the years, especially in the early years when I was getting into Doctor Who, when I was going through like a binge watch of Tennant's era, it would have broken me. You know, say for example, if I was watching it live as Tennant's stuff was going out in like 2006 through to whatever, you know, and he decided just to, you know, to replace him after 1 series or 2 series, that would have broken me.
Yeah.
And the same with Matt Smith and Capaldi, you know, there's a connection there. There's something there that pulls you into that Doctor, even if the script isn't amazing or the story is not brilliant.
That's right.
You know, it's that particular person who's got hold of the part that just draws you in and just keeps you there. And like you said with Jodie, she's just not quite doing that yet. You know, I think it's just a writing and a strength thing. She's not
definitely
put
a strength
her foot
thing.
down enough.
Yeah, she hasn't sort of stamped her foot as the Doctor. I think I said a few podcasts back, one of the channels on TV was rerunning Tennant's era, and I just happened to turn over in the middle of New Earth, which is a story I don't particularly like, as though his first sort of proper story, isn't it, of series 2.
Yeah.
But I turned over at the scene where he's getting really angry and he's like, what have you done to Rose? And if you think there's another authority higher than me, there isn't, because I'm the Doctor. And I thought, blimey, Tennant, this is his first proper story. And there's the Doctor. Like, because, you know, Russell's just, you know, he's stamped his foot. This is the Doctor. We never got a moment like that from Jodie. And I think that's why she doesn't feel like the Doctor to me. She hasn't stamped her authority on the role or stood up to anyone. I mean, when she met Tim Shaw in the final, I thought, we might get a good sort of face-off between the two here. No, what does she say? Oh, do you like my new coat? And I'm like, oh, for God's sake, Chibbers, give us some meat on the bones, you know?
Yeah, I read you, mate.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I've got for sort of poor moments. I'm hoping that the good moments have outshone those few poor bits there. But have you got anything else on the naughty list?
No, not really. No, I'd be just one thing I am intrigued by is if you missed the cliffhangers, because we got a cracking cliffhanger to the first episode where they were they were sort of dangling in space, and that really left me hanging on week, thinking, how are they going to get out of that? It was really good cliffhanger. I wouldn't want it every week, but I think the odd one or two would be nice, just to sort of hook you back in the following week to make sure you've got to be there to see it. I mean, I think of the sort of the cliffhanger to Utopia when the Master locked the Doctor out of the TARDIS. I mean, that was a long week waiting for that conclusion, which sadly didn't live up to it. But what a cliffhanger that was, So the odd cliffhanger, I think, would have been nice in Series 11. Not every week, but just maybe 2 or 3 would have been cool, because that was a good one.
Yeah, I think maybe it comes down to the fact that we didn't have any 2-parters either. So I think it's obviously easier to throw a cliffhanger in when you've got a 2-parter.
Yes, true.
So it's potentially easier to do. But even so, there's nothing. I mean, they did it anyway, didn't they? Like you said, at the end of episode 1, it really left you thinking, how the hell are they going to sort this out then? They're literally in space about to die.
That was a great cliffhanger.
Yeah, but I agree. I do miss the old cliffhanger now and then. Yeah, for sure.
The old Sting coming in. And the only other thing is, are you interested in doing a little rundown of what your... I mean, I went back and looked at the scores to see what our favourite episode of the series was and what our least favourite.
Okay, yep.
So I don't know. I only did mine. I don't know if you've got your scores to hand there, but I think I think we're on the same page. Actually, from what I remember, we should be the same list. So, best to worst, should I do, or should I do worst to best?
Do worst to best. Go on.
Worst to best. So I think we rated the Saranga. I still can't say it after all these weeks. Saranga Conundrum. Yeah. As last, followed by the Battle of Ranskor Avkolos. See, I've nailed that one. Then we had Arachnids in the UK, followed by Kablam, the Ghost Monument, and then we're into our top 5. So our top 5 for Series 11 was The Witchfinders at number 5.
Okay. Yep.
It Takes You Away at number 4. Mm-hmm. Demons of the Punjab at number 3. The Woman Who Fell to Earth at number 2. And our top episode, probably no surprise, was Rosa. We considered that the best.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's our top 10 of Series 11. So I think Rosa, rightfully deserves to be at the top. I think that was a strong, although it had a pretty naff villain.
Of course.
Mr. Handsome Racist. It was a great episode, wasn't it?
It was
really
fantastic.
good in terms of performance and everything. I mean, yeah.
No, I think they're pretty solid scores. And I think it's been a long time since we reviewed episodes down in like the 4 out of 10s and 5s and stuff. So those bottom 2, we rated 4.5 and 5, was it, or 4? They're both around the 4-point mark. Yeah, they weren't very high scores. Yeah. The one that we disagreed most with our listeners was Kablam. Loads of people like Kablam, but we're not part of the Kablam club. No deliveries for us.
No deliveries for us, Dave. We rated that 7th on our top 10, but yeah.
There we go.
There we go.
That's our rundown for 2018.
Series 11.
Shall we land it again and let's do some listener Q&A?
Q&A.
We did have a few Q&A, questions come in from in audio clip format.
Oh, cool.
So let's kick off with Alex Kingdom.
Hello, Gary Allen of the Big Blue Box podcast. So, Q&A time. My first question, pretty generic question. I've got 2 generic questions, then we'll get on to the fun one. So the first generic question is, did you guys think this podcast would get as massive as it has? Obviously, you guys released merch. I don't know whether there is more merch at the minute. I'm very behind, sorry. However, I know at one point I was the only person to ever have a Big Blue Box t-shirt. I don't know whether that's still a thing or if there ever were a thing. I've still got mine, and it's lovely, and thank you guys for that. My second question, Series 11 related. At what point did Jodie Whittaker become the Doctor for you? Because that was a big asking point, a big moment where people were like, has she become the Doctor yet? Ooh. When was that point for you this series? And my final question is, who would win in a fight? A Pating or a Drashig? I personally don't know. I mean, because we could be sitting here debating this. Do you know what? I've got the Series 12 story arc. It's Pating versus Drashig with Jodie Whittaker. and Bradley Walsh. And it turns out there's going to be an episode of The Chase in Doctor Who where the Bating is the chaser and Drashig is the challenger. I don't know what I'm going off on a rant now. But before I go, I just want to wish you guys a Merry Christmas. Have a good New Year. Because 2018's been a weird one, I think, for all of us. Maybe not. Maybe you guys have had just spectacular years. I've unfortunately had a rough year with other things. But hoping 2019 is going to be better. But yeah, have a good Christmas and just enjoy celebrating. Whatever you guys do celebrate, you two, the listeners. Don't get too drunk, or do. I'm not in charge, but wouldn't, actually, it's 2018, go ham, and we'll look forward to watching the 2019 New Year's special. I almost said Christmas special, but it's New Year's, so we'll enjoy watching that one. Anyway, guys, see you guys all very soon. Take care, and have a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Nice one, Alex.
Cheers, Alex. Do you know, if there's one thing to really finish Gary off and make sure he never watches Doctor Who again, it would be an episode with the Bating and the Drashig. I think that would just finish him off.
That would be enough for me. Yes.
That would be the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate. Have a great Christmas and New Year yourself. And thanks for all your support with the podcast over the years. The T-shirt, mate. Yeah, it's a limited edition, isn't it, that he's got?
It's a limited edition.
He got the first design, which I think we printed one of, and you got it, and then we redesigned it. And they're still out there, but not the one you've got, mate. That is a real, literal one-off.
One of a kind.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah.
So Alex had 3 questions. First one was, did you guys think the podcast would get as massive as it has? First of all, I don't think the podcast is massive at all, but thank you for thinking that it is. I can't really...
Massive?
Massive. We've never strived to be massive or whatever. We just love the listeners that we have got, and if we do get a bunch of new listeners as we go through each episode, then that's fantastic, and welcome aboard, obviously. So question 2 was, when did the 13th Doctor become the Doctor for you? I think we both know the answer to that.
She didn't.
For us, that she hasn't yet. And number 3, who would win in a fight between the Bating and a Drashig? And I'm going to go with the Bating, hoping that it would eat that stupid, ridiculous thing all up at once and spit it out. And
well, I love the Drashig, so I'll go with the Drashig.
You'll go with the Drashig, right?
Yeah.
Rightio, next question. This is from Martin Arnold.
Hello, everyone. I hope the big blue box TARDIS is suitably decked out and ready for Christmas, and that you guys have a good one, and everyone listening. I'll give my final thoughts on season 11 before I ask a question. I think it was a little too safe. I think that Chris Chibnall played it a little too safe. There should have been more big bad monsters to fight rather than just not big bad monsters to fight, because it's a staple of the show, and I think that's what was needed. I did enjoy it overall, aside from the Bating, which just blows my mind. That was the weirdest thing ever. Anywho, I wanted to ask this question because it's a bit of a downbeat one, but I've wondered about this for a while, especially in the wake of Capaldi departing, I thought rather early on. And my feeling is that the BBC expects too much from the cast, possibly also the showrunner, in terms of expecting them to attend conventions all over the world and do all sorts of social media stuff, YouTube, Twitter, Facebooks, and all the rest of it. I worry that this is something that affects the performance and burns out the actors, and I would hate to see that continue. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Anyway, that's a depressing question. Once again, season's greetings, and looking forward to more in the new year. Take care.
That's a good question, though. That is a very good question.
Thank you, Martin. And a Merry Christmas to you also. Does the BBC expect too much from the actors, writers, etc.? This was kind of the reason for Capaldi. I think this was a contributing factor for him leaving, wasn't it? That he was just absolutely knackered.
Do you remember that?
All of the time.
Time he was on stage and he said it himself, didn't he? I am exhausted, he said, and he looked really haggard. He looked so tired. Yeah. It is a big schedule on top of all the other stuff that Martin just mentioned. There is no other show like it, I don't think, in terms of all of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So do the BBC expect too much? I think the BBC, I think they're kind of protected in themselves, really, because I would say that everyone involved in making the show knows exactly what's required and what goes into it. So if you've auditioned for it, Jodie, for example, and you were offered the part, I would say that you were fully briefed on all of the stuff that goes with it. So I think it's down to you as an actor beforehand to say, can I comfortably get through this? Because I think Matt Smith said the same thing or similar thing as well, that, Doctor Who occupied 10 months out of 12 when he was working on it, not just filming, but all the other stuff that he had to do.
Yeah, the promotion side and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. So I think in a way, Martin, yes, the BBC can potentially expect a lot. I'm not sure whether they expect too much, but I think they expect a lot, especially from the lead actor, whoever that is. But I think it's also down to the lead actor as well to make that decision. I think if they get offered it, they need to know full well going into it that it's not just going to be 9 to 5 for a few months filming and then go home. I think they know beforehand that they're going to have a lot to do. So it's down to them whether they feel that they can commit to that. But it's definitely a factor. I mean, it definitely affected Capaldi for sure. Like you said, he was wrecked by the end of it.
He was definitely ready for a rest. He said it himself. It is a really grueling schedule. And I suppose it's good to point out all the promotional stuff they have to do, because I guess you kind of forget about that, don't you? Take it a bit for granted. All the sort of appearances they make to publicise the show. Do you remember when they carted like Capaldi off to Australia with Jenna and photos in front of the bridge, and then the next sort of couple of days he was in Japan or whatever? And they do they really have to earn their money, I suppose. I'm sure they get paid well, but they do. The BBC do expect a lot with Doctor Who. I think it's a really good point, actually. I've never thought that much about it before. But they do expect a lot, and they expect you to, behave when you're off screen as well. Do you know what I mean? We've met I'm not going to name names, we've met certain people involved in Doctor Who that have, they can't, let me just put this cigarette out before you take a selfie because I can't be seen smoking and that sort of. So there is a sort of bubble around Doctor Who that the BBC do have very high expectations, and rightly so in some areas, but I think they are quite controlling. I think the one thing that slightly niggles me with the way they control the show is that a lot of the people that are involved with it in terms of the promotion and perhaps even just on the outskirts of it have to remain very positive all the time about the show.
Oh, yeah,
and unfortunately, that's all well and good in theory, but we're so wise to it now with social media that we don't fall for it. So a lot of the time, again, mentioning no names, we'll see someone being overly positive about an episode that perhaps we all know really wasn't that great. And we just don't buy it. We're thinking, well, you're just saying that because you're too afraid to say your real opinion because the BBC might not invite you to the next premiere. And that's the side of it I don't like. They do quash people's opinions a bit with anyone involved with the show. And, I'm not saying they should come out and sort of blast it to pieces, but sometimes you do see sort of, reviews or tweets from people and you think, well, you don't really think that, do you? It's so blatant. We're not silly. But we get that they have to be like that because of the way the BBC is. And that's the part that slightly niggles me. I think it's a bit of a shame.
Yeah, that goes back to what I was saying earlier. There's a few podcasts and YouTubers and other people who are involved in the show to some degree. Like you said, they could be right on the outskirts, not directly involved in making it, but they're involved with the Beeb in some way. I'm not going to name any names here. But yeah, it's just, somebody with a completely 100% intellectual common sense head on their shoulders would look at certain things and think, yeah, that's pretty rubbish. But then on social media, it's like, oh, this is absolutely brilliant, and all that lot. So you can tell a mile off, but yeah.
It's one thing that worries me as well, because I sort of think, not this is ever going to happen, but let's just say hypothetically, if we were ever noticed by the BBC, say, and then we were sort of, you would be obliged to you'd have to change. And I don't think I would, with all the perks that would come with it. If they would say, well, come and do this review, but we've got to screen everything you said first, and we've got to check that you're, putting it in a positive light. So it's a compromise, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Do you want to be part of that BBC gravy train, for want of a better word? Or do you want to actually give your honest opinion? Because I don't think the two necessarily go hand in hand. And I'm not by any means slagging off anyone that does do that, because I understand. I think if I was given the choice, I'd think, I could be interviewing Peter Capaldi next week, but I can't say anything bad. And it's like, it is a tough choice, isn't it? You sort of think they're restricted. And I just think it's a shame. And I'm laying the blame at the BBC. I just think they should let the reins off a little bit, because people aren't stupid. They're wise enough to make up their own minds and see when someone's being reasonable about something rather than overly positive. And so that's a bit that slightly annoys me with the way the BBC expect things from people.
Yeah, it's a good point though, Martin. Thank you. Last couple of questions. We have two in from the same person. This is Elliot, also known as Rotide on Twitter. Here's his first question.
Hello, Gary and Adam. This is Elliot, aka Rotide, and a question I have for you guys is, should we be worried that the fact that people are already wanting Chris Chibnall to leave and no longer be showrunner after one series? Because Moffat and RTD never had that kind of talk when they started. But yet Chris Chibnall does one series, which it seems like it's very mixed, in the way that some people like it, some people don't, some people are in the middle. And people are talking about the fact that they don't want him to be the showrunner anymore. And I want to know, should we be worried about that? And should he leave? I mean, I know us debating isn't going to make any difference to whether he stays or not. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think that he is fit to be the showrunner? And do you think it's a bit worrying that we're already having this kind of debate one series in?
It is slightly worrying. I don't think we should be worried, because in terms of the way the series has gone down in terms of viewing figures and that, I think the BBC are probably a bit, blinkered. They probably think it's been a great success. And in many ways it has. So it's definitely brought back on the viewers and stuff. So the BBC are probably very pleased with Chris Chibnall, I would imagine, because I don't know if they actually get the general feeling of the fandom and the overall feeling. They're just going to judge it on the way it's gone down with viewing figures and stuff. I think what we'll be telling is how well the Series 11 box set sells, because I think that'll give them an indication of how many people liked it enough to want to buy it. I mean, myself as a fan who's very OCD and has to collect everything the minute it comes out, I'm not even bothered about getting it at the minute. I'm going to wait for it to come down in price. So that tells you something. Personally, I'd like to see him do one more series to see, but I am actually already looking forward to him going, because one thing Chibnall has showed me as a fan over the years, not just a showrunner, is that his stories are always, they're for me personally, very average. They always have a really long build up with a quick 10-minute resolution and stuff. And I think he's done some great stuff getting Doctor Who back in the mainstream, so I can't take that away from him. But as a showrunner, I don't think he's got what I want to see from a Doctor Who showrunner personally. So I'd like to see him do one more series to see if he can actually surprise me and do something that I think is good. And then I'll be quite happy to see him go. But as for should we be worried? A little bit, but not too much.
Yeah, thank you.
What about you, mate? What do you think?
Yeah, thanks, Elliot. I think, I don't think we should be worried at all, because, and this is going to sound very, very awful of me to say this, but, there's lots of talented writers out there. And it makes it sound quite awful, because if I was Chibbers in that position and I knew that, a big bulk of fandom was like, you've got to go, that you can help but take that a bit personally. So I understand that we're talking about somebody's job and their livelihood here. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that he's not well off, but what I'm trying to say is especially in the UK, we have a very good pool of very talented writers. And I think there's a selection of writers that could take on that job and be quite successful. So I don't think we should be worried in terms of will it affect the show. And I guess it's a bit like it's the opposite, because, I'm not really into football these days, but sometimes when you see a football team and they've hired a new manager and then 3 games later they've sacked him or her because, the team hasn't won any games. And you kind of think, well, why the hell would you do that? It's only 3 games in. You need to give them at least a season's run to sort of get their feet and, get everybody rocking. It's like the opposite with Chibbers. It's not like the team have let him down in any way, because like you're saying, the BBC probably look at it as a big success and everything's great. But in terms of all the little niggles and complaints and stuff from fandom, that's not necessarily the actor's fault or the set designer's fault or the audio person's fault or anything like that. it really does go up to the top of the chain. You can see that the hold that Chibble has on certain elements of the show is kind of having an adverse effect on it. So in that way, you think, well, yeah, you know, if a lot of these complaints are aimed at some of the things that he's doing or not doing, you know, he should step aside and let someone else who potentially could make it those things, you know, fix those things, let them have a go. But I think we'll see at least another series from him. I reckon, you know, he's not going anywhere anytime soon, but I think that another series, if it goes through the same stuff that we've gone through with Series 11, then I think we should be worried, because then I think it's a case of, right, you lot sitting up at the top floor at the BBC Towers, surely you've got to start listening to people now. You can't just say, right, it's had 5 million viewers, let's get the champagne out. You've got to start listening to fandom, because otherwise it's that slippery slope of, you know, you just get a big backlash out of nowhere, and then they just sort of wise-eyed, you know, their eyes are wide open in the back of the seat. Where the hell did all that come from? And then you've got all the fandom saying, we've been telling you for over a series now. So I'm granting a little bit, but yeah, I think we shouldn't be worried now. I think it's the opposite. I think if we have another series like this one, where things aren't quite as good as we hoped they would be, but then he still stays on and the BBC still thinks it's all great, then we should be worried.
Yeah, I agree. I'm worried that they're going to look at Series 11 and think, right, we need to keep that formula because that's worked. And I think, no, it hasn't really. So, yeah, I just hope they don't give us Series 11 Part 2 sort of thing. Because I wonder what Chib wants to achieve with it. That's the thing. He's a lifelong Doctor Who fan. I said this on last week's podcast. What does he want to achieve with his era of Doctor Who? Because if Series 11 is anything to go by, I mean, I don't know what he was going for, really, apart from the, you know, refreshing it, which he did. But I wonder where he's going. For me, I'm thinking, is he thinking, right, yeah, I've refreshed it. I've laid the land. Now, Series 12, I'm going to do everything I wanted to do all my life with Doctor Who sort of thing. I don't know. I hope so, because if Series 11 is what he's been inside him for all these years, that he's, you know, desperately wanted to make, that's a little bit worrying, to be honest. Yeah. So I'm hoping Series 12 is when he actually really goes for it as a showrunner.
Indeed, yes. And we had a second question in from Elliot. But I'm not going to play it because it's essentially something that we've already spoke about at length. And his question was, have we had any experience with the negative or toxic side of fandom, especially this year, and what are our thoughts? So forgive me, Roadside, I'm not going to play that question because we've already spoken about all that stuff at length earlier on. But yes, we have had experiences with it for sure.
Yeah. Indeed. More so this year than any other. Yeah.
So those were the audio questions. Thank you so much for taking the time to record those and send them in. We had a bunch of questions in on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and so on. So let's rattle through some of these. Let's get these. So Twitter user T Hooniverse says, where would you take the show if you were a showrunner? Is In the Forest of the Night an underrated episode? You can choose from yes, yes, and yes, but with added drastic. That was on Twitter. So where would you take the show if you were showrunner? Adam, if you got offered the job tomorrow, what would be your MO for Doctor Who? Where would you take it?
Yeah, it's a difficult question for me because I've never had any. I know, some, like I said previously, some people would love to make Doctor Who, wouldn't they? They do all these little fan audio stuff and they're really into it. And I'm a massive fan. I've watched Doctor Who ever since I can remember, but I've never had any inclination to write stories or be a showrunner. So it's difficult for me to answer that one because I genuinely don't know. I mean, one thing I would love to, if I was a showrunner, would be to sort of try and emulate a bit of the Hinchcliffe era, bring in some of the fun mixed with the horror. I think they got a great balance, you know, in that particular era of Doctor Who. And that's what I would like to, if I was making Doctor Who, that's what I would aim to achieve, is because I think there was a lot of fun lacking from Series 11 as well. You know, that's the sort of family audience mixed with the horror. So that's what I'd try and bring back. Some good scary monsters, get the kids behind the sofa again a bit, but then have some fun humor with it, with like the Tom Baker and Sarah Jane interaction. So some more of that, really. I wouldn't concentrate too much on Gallifrey. I know a lot of people would love to see the Doctor go back to Gallifrey. Did it even get mentioned this year, Gallifrey?
I don't think we even got one.
I don't think we've got one mention. No. So yeah, I'd ground it a little bit more. I'd bring back a bit of the Doctor's. I'm not going to say history because that makes it sound like he's going to bang on about all the stuff he's done. But he's seen a lot, done a lot, and I'd sort of bring a bit more of that to the show, I guess, so that he was, you know, the Doctor's back sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah. What about you, mate? Because I really don't know where to go with that one. I've never really thought about it. Oh, can I just say, In the Forest of the Night, underrated episode? Absolutely not. Sorry, it's one of the worst.
Yeah.
I can't bear that episode. Yeah. Anyway, over to you, mate.
So In the Forest of the Night, nope, don't even bother. That's that dealt with. Where would you take the show, your showrunner? Do you know what, mate? This is where you and I are on the same page once again.
Oh, really? Because I thought you'd got all these little stories rattling around your head.
Well, I've got, like you, mate, I don't sit there and think, right, I would do this particular. I've got a couple of ideas, but, Big Finish have already stolen one of them. But in terms of
Clive,
if I was showrunner, it would be very similar to your thoughts, where I would lean a bit more on the success of some of those classic eras. So specifically the Hinchcliffe era, where I would just love to see who be a bit more, for want of a better word, a bit more terrifying from time to time. I just really, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to give kids nightmares for years. I don't want to scar their brains or anything like that. But I just want who to have that, like you said, that mix of, yes, it's a family show and it's aimed at adults and children, obviously. So that good mix of family entertainment, but just giving people the willies a bit more and having a really decent, scary threat, which was really, really cool from the Hinchcliffe era. Let's just bring some of that back, let's just, I don't know. So that's I think where we would go with. So yeah, showrunner stuff. Let's bring back some of that cool, because I think there's so much good stuff in the classic years, and it was so successful to a point. I know it was a bit more of a cult almost, or a niche show back then, and it wasn't watched by as many people as it is now. Well, to some respects, I think some of the Tom Baker era have dragged in a massive amount of viewers. But I mean, in terms of mainstream pop culture, nowadays it's very in your face about everything, a bit like Star Wars and so on. But back then in the classic years, it was a bit more, you watched it or you didn't, you were aware of it or you weren't, whereas now it's like, even if you don't know what Doctor Who is, you know what Doctor Who is, if that makes sense.
I know what you're getting at.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Twitter user, this is Lewis Blackmore. He says, what would you say your favourite story of each Doctor is?
Oh, gosh.
Also, just wanting to ask whether you'll be returning to the old setup pre-Series 11 when you reviewed classic New Who, Sarah Jane and Torchwood. It's my turn to go first, mate. Lewis, yes, we will definitely be returning to that format. So when we come back in January, not straight away because we'll be reviewing Resolution, but the week after that, then we'll start our rotation of those other bits. What's my favourite story of each Doctor? Crikey. So for the first Doctor, that would be An Unearthly Child. Second Doctor would be the War Games. Third Doctor would be Inferno. Fourth Doctor would be Pyramids of Mars. Fifth Doctor would be Caves of Androzani. Sixth Doctor would be, I don't know. Seventh Doctor would be Remembrance. Obviously the movie. Eccleston. Father's Day. 10th Doctor would be The End of Time, parts 1 and 2. 11th Doctor would be I don't know. Capaldi, I don't know. And Jodie, I don't know. Rosa, probably. Sorry, Lewis. Have you got anything on top of your head that you could rattle through?
So first Doctor, I've always loved the War Machines.
Okay, cool.
Second Doctor, I'm going to say the Mind Robber, but actually, there is one that I like. But I'll go with the Mind Robber. I've always enjoyed that one. It's a fun one. It's not the best though. There is one I like more. I just can't think of it. Anyway, so yeah, Mind Robber. Third Doctor, Inferno. I think is fantastic. Fourth Doctor is one I really. There's so many Tom in there. Which one did you go for? Pyramids of Mars.
Yeah.
I actually really love Seeds of Doom.
Oh, cool. Yes.
And I always get that mixed up with the Seeds of Death, which is the second Doctor. But Seeds of Doom is a great one with the Crinoids. A great story. Fifth Doctor. Which did you say? Caves.
Caves. Yeah.
I mean, it probably is Caves, isn't it? But I'll go with a different one.
Time Flight.
No, not Time Flight.
Earthshock. Go on. Earthshock. The Visitation. There's a good one.
I actually, Visitation I love. Really do. I was going to say Earthshock, but Visitation is good. So Sixth Doctor, oh dear me, there isn't many I like of his at all. I'd probably go Revelation of the Daleks, actually.
Oh, yeah, not bad.
Fifth Doctor, Resurrection of the Daleks. I blimmin' love that.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely love that. Seventh Doctor, Time of the Rani, obviously. I genuinely love Time of the Rani, but it's not my favourite. Seventh Doctor would be...
it's got to be Remembrance, hasn't it?
Well, you said Remembrance. It is Remembrance, but another one I love is Greatest Show.
Yep.
And Curse of Fenric. So those, it's difficult to choose. Seventh Doctor. Eighth Doctor would be a TV movie. Ninth Doctor, the two-parter, Parting of the Ways and Bad Wolf.
Oh, yes.
Yep. That is the best series final, and I just love that two-parter.
It's amazing.
Hologram scene. Oh, welling up already. 10th Doctor. Gosh, where'd you get? There's so many with him. He's got some great stories, isn't he? I do really like Utopia. I know it's a sort of bit of a sort of part of a loose trilogy, isn't it? But I think Utopia is a fantastic. Waters of Mars, though.
Oh, it's a cracker.
I'm going to go Waters of Mars.
Okay,
That is a superb episode. 11th Doctor. I didn't like many of his stories. It's weird. He's one of my favourite Doctors.
I couldn't think of one. Maybe the 11th Hour.
Well, I was going to go with 11th Hour.
I really like, I know it's not a common opinion, but I really like The Doctor's Wife. I watched that recently.
Do you?
I know it's not of a common, but I don't care. I like it. I really like it.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I don't mind Doctor's Wife. I know a lot of people like it. I think it reminds me of some other episodes. I really can't think of any 11th. I was going to go 11th Hour because that's his first episode. Isn't that strange?
Yeah.
Vincent and the Doctor, that's a good one.
Oh God, should have picked that one.
No, I've got it.
You've got
that's
it.
Mine.
Yes.
12th Doctor. Do you know? I really like Mummy on the Orient Express. Actually, I just love how Capaldi is in that. And also the Zygon two-parter I thought was great from his era.
Yeah.
And the 13th Doctor, Rosa.
Yeah, I think. Do you know what, Lewis? If you ask me next week, all of my answers will change pretty much. I couldn't think of a 12th Doctor one, but I think I'm going to say Heaven Sent.
Heaven Sent?
And Help.
Really?
Yeah,
a lot of people like that one, don't they?
Brilliant.
I'm just looking. I've got a list up of 11th Doctor episodes because I have to remind myself. Oh God, there is some drivel in here.
Yeah.
He's one of my favourite Doctors as well. But his stories are awful. Nightmare in Silver, Journey to the Centre of Time. Oh man, he had some real clangers, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's really hard to pick a good story from this load of old rubbish.
It's the same for me though. For all the newer Doctors, my mind changes all the time. I think for Tennant, I also would have gone with Human Nature and Family of Blood. I also would have gone with Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead. Love that. Yeah. Midnight, Turn Left. Oh,
Turn Left. I love Turn Left. Yeah, that's a good. Do you know what the Family of Blood two-part is brilliant actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of good ones in his era.
Lewis, you've really thrown us there, mate. So we've answered a few of them anyways.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to have to rattle through these. Natasha Ayler, that would be my wife. She was she had a comedian moment. Can you walk us through your beard maintenance regime? Inquiring minds want to know. You said anything. I did say anything.
Did say anything. Beard maintenance, yeah.
Keep it clean, keep it trim. There you go. Can't say anything more than that.
Can't say any more than that. No, in fact, I want a new beard trimmer for Christmas if Mum's listening, because I've been using the same one for about 10 years, and it actually hurts to use it now. It nearly rips my face off every time I trim it. So there's a Christmas present idea.
Yeah, there we go. My wife, the comedian. Everybody. Yeah. Charlie Turner, how do you both plan to get Series 11 on home media? Steelbook, regular Blu-ray, regular DVD, or all three? Whichever one's cheapest. That's whenever. For me.
Yeah, do you know, it's funny because as soon as they announced the Steelbook, as it's an Amazon exclusive, I pre-ordered it straight away. Obviously, it's before Series 11 aired, and then they released the final image for it the other week, and I thought that is a really boring looking Steelbook, and I thought, well, I'll obviously still get it because I can't not have it. OCD, got to complete my collection, and then I was like, but the price is still 50 quid, 48. I'm like, no, there's no way I'm paying 48 quid for that. So I've cancelled my Steelbook, and if it sells out, I'm not bothered. I'm hoping it'll come down in price, and then I'll order one again. I've got to say the packaging for the regular Blu-ray looks absolutely stunning. They have done a great job with that.
Yeah.
So I will probably pick up the regular Blu-ray box set when it gets slightly reduced.
Yeah,
because again, it's a bit pricey at the minute.
Yeah, so no idea, Charlie, which is a shame because normally we'd have pre-ordered it and stuck with it and all the rest of it. But
it's another Series 9, isn't it? I still haven't got Series 9. Yeah. I've got the Steelbook actually, but I haven't got the regular release. Yeah.
Right, Dean Jones, what was your favourite convention experience this year? For me, it was definitely meeting Tom Baker, Matt Smith, Peter Davison, Paul Mackie, and Richard Wilson.
Yay!
Just to name a few.
I don't believe it.
So, for me, yes, it would have been London Film and Comic Con for many reasons. Although, yes, it's busy, it's loud, it's knackering, all the rest of it. I did meet one of my heroes, Ray Park, Darth Maul there. Plus, I met my other hero, David Tennant, as the Doctor there. So that was a cracking event for me. Yes, it's big and a big behemoth of a thing and all that lot. But yeah, that was it for me. What about you, mate?
Yeah, for me, it would be finally getting a picture of Matt Smith because as long-time listeners will know, there's a bit of a story there about me meeting him twice and him being lovely, and I've never managed to get a photo with him, just one of my hand. Yeah, to finally get a proper picture of Matt was good. He's such a dude. I love Matt Smith. Love his Doctor as well, despite his awful stories. Meeting Tom Baker again is always good. So I finally got a smiley picture with him because I've got a really unsmiley one with him, bless him, but that was good. So yeah, LFCC was, I think, a highlight. It was stressful. It was stressful, but when we all got down the pub at the end of it and we're looking at our pickies and stuff and who we'd met, and Chris Eccleston actually turned up as well, which we were amazed about because he was announced his first ever UK convention, and I think we were all wondering if he would cancel, and he didn't, and he showed up and he looked like he had a great time. So that was another highlight, was seeing that, and that brilliant moment when him and Matt met walking across this the building.
Between. Yeah, it's awesome.
That was an awesome moment. Yeah. So yeah, I guess it's LFCC.
Yeah. Daniel Hickey says, in the new year, any chance we could get your reviews of the 3 novels from Series 11? Would love to hear your and listeners' thoughts. Also, talk about your favourite episodes of all time.
Gosh, that could take forever.
Yeah, we can't do that, mate. That'll take another podcast. But in terms of book reviews, we don't really do that, I'm afraid, Daniel. We haven't got the... Well...
No.
I don't really read Doctor Who books regularly enough, I think. I read them sort of now and then when I've got time.
One of our other team might, like Jordan Shortman and stuff, might do a little online review for us. That's something he might be interested in doing.
Yeah, I was going to say our team of writers would be more likely to review books and stuff like that because our writers review sort of Big Finish and other bits and pieces from Who and stuff. So maybe they would throw some reviews up there, Daniel, but not from us, I'm afraid, on the podcast.
Not on the podcast. I had a lovely idea of a video I wanted to do on my YouTube channel, but I'm afraid by the time I got round to even thinking about filming it, the books had been out a couple of months, and I kind of felt the moment had gone. But I was going to do like a little Jackanory, like of me sat reading the first chapter, say, give a little review of the book, a little 2-minute review, saying my thoughts on the book, and then I said, and here's a sample, and I was going to be so. Midnight and the Doctor walks through the fire, and I thought that'd be lovely, just me sat in a little wooden chair reading the first chapter of each book, and I really, really wanted to do that, but I'm afraid I ran out of time, and the books have been out for weeks now, and I kind of think the moment's gone. So maybe I'll do it if another Doctor Who book goes out. I don't know why, I just really want to do that, but yeah, but not on the podcast, sadly. That'll be on my YouTube channel, if anything. Yeah.
Okay. Twitter user Chloe Rebecca 00 says, how do you feel about... Oh, sorry, no. So I missed one. Sorry. Matt Searson asked, what would be the next missing Doctor Who story you would like to see animated after Macra?
Oh, yeah. After Macra. I'd really like to see Evil of the Daleks, actually.
I was just going to say that, dude.
Were you?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Just because visually I think it would be a great one with the Dalek Emperor up on his big old stage and all that. And also I do think Second Doctor is good for animation because they're so quirky, the dialogue and stuff. So, I love the first Doctor's era, but it can be very stilted. There's often lots of long gaps in between dialogue, isn't there? But Troughton's era is a bit more quirky. So I'd probably go with one of his. So yeah, Evil of the Daleks springs to mind. What other ones?
The Power of the Daleks might be a good one.
That's already been done.
Has already been done, is it?
Power of the Daleks.
I thought that was missing, that one.
They've animated it though, didn't they?
Oh, of course they did, yeah. Oh.
Yeah. It's funny because for years that was my answer.
Yeah.
I
don't know other than that. I think maybe, obviously, a big one, it would be Marco Polo.
Yeah, that would be good. I mean, that's been floating around as a rumor for ages, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that would be a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. Or otherwise, I don't know. Space Pirates, has that been done?
Oh no, you wouldn't want that. Oof.
Just for the quirkiness of it, just for the weirdness, really.
It would be good to have some more Troughton,
Exactly.
but maybe not that.
Yeah,
maybe not that one. No.
There's a few. There's a few, Matt, but
Fury from the Deep might be quite nice. Does any of Fury from the Deep exist? I can't remember now.
Can't remember.
I think it's completely missing.
Yeah.
I think.
But no, Terror of the Daleks would be a good one.
Evil of the Daleks.
Sorry, Evil of the Daleks. That would be a great one to have.
Yeah.
On.
I'm going to say that and Fury from the Deep. I'm pretty sure most of that, if not all of it's missing. That would be a nice one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Chloe Rebecca 00. So how do you feel about this series not having a story arc like all the previous series or New Who has, as I feel like it really let it down? An overall story arc, mate? I think it could have benefited from something running through it a little bit, not so much as not enough of a Moffat in your face, this is what's happening leading up to something. But just maybe little bits here and there would have benefited, maybe. A little bit.
Yeah, we got that. It's funny, isn't it? I mean, I didn't want a massive story arc this year, but some sort of tiny little thread, a bit like the Bad Wolf thing, would have been nice. We did get that Timeless Child thing, didn't we? That went nowhere. I thought that was going to be a little something, didn't you?
Yeah, it went nowhere though, mate. Yeah.
Went nowhere, no.
Yes. But yes, it would have been nice, Chloe, a little bit. Yeah.
Just a little something, yeah.
Yeah. Our regular listener and reviewer, Sammy Satine, says, how many episodes would make up your ideal series? And which writers who previously wrote for Doctor Who, excluding Russell and Moff, would you like to see write for Doctor Who again? Number of episodes that would make up an ideal series. I mean, I think 10's a good one.
Yeah.
I think 10 episodes a series, because you do have like some of the big US TV shows. They're like 20-odd episodes a series, and that can be a bit...
It goes on a bit, doesn't it? Yeah.
So I think 10's a good... 10 or 12, I think, is a good number for me.
I like 12 plus a Christmas special. Also, 13 was a good... You get 12 episodes in a special, I think it's a good run. I agree with you. I think anything past that, they start struggling to sort of fill the episodes, and I'd rather have 12 really good episodes than like 20 dragged out.
Yeah, true.
Like Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
Writers
who previously wrote for Who, excluding the showrunners.
I'd like to see Paul Cornell come back, but I don't think he's interested, I'd like to see him do something. I think he's still got some great ideas. He never wrote for Doctor Who, but I'd love to see Andrew Cartmel do something.
I'll tell you what, speaking of Andrew Cartmel, I'd love to see Ben Aronovich come back and write something.
Oh, yes. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Andrew, you'd probably have to, you'd probably have to buy a few books off Andrew before he comes back. But yeah, I would like to see him. I'd like to see him do something. And Ben's a great show, actually. He'd be good. But yeah, Paul Cornell, I think would be great. But I think he's sort of, he's doing other things. So I don't think he's interested in coming back.
Yeah. Edward Giluli says, which classic villain would you like to see brought back in Series 12? For him, he says the Wern. And question 2 is, which lost story would you like to see animated next? So we've answered that one already.
Okay.
Edward. Classic villain brought back for Series 12. I know what you're going to say. I'm going to say it before you say it.
Go on.
The Sea Devils.
Yes.
I knew you were going to say it.
Yeah.
And it makes me look like I'm copying you all the time.
It's the only time I've had an answer to one of these questions ready to go. Yeah. Oh, definitely the Sea Devils.
The Sea Devils.
Absolutely. I'd love to see them come back, but they'd have to. I don't want them getting rid of the vest.
Oh no!
Don't go changing them up. I mean, we don't want those warrior style ones like we got in Warriors of the Deep. We want the classic. No, I genuinely would love to see the Sea Devils come back, and I think, despite my reservations about Chibbers, he might actually do a decent job with them. I think so. Maybe. Yeah, definitely the Sea Devils.
Yes.
Is there anyone else? Or
definitely not the Drashigs. Definitely not the Drashigs.
No, you don't want to see. I mean, I like the Drashigs, but not the Drashigs.
I would like to see Sutek in a
You'd like to see Sutek back?
Yeah, I know he's been in Big Finish, but I'd like to see him doing his thing.
Yeah. Gosh, there must be loads, but I could only think the Sea Devils because that's exactly what I was thinking in my head. I didn't like what Chibbers did with the Silurians. I've got to admit, I never liked the new series. Silurians particularly, but
Yeah.
Totally unrelated, and it never happened. But I'd like to see the big robot from Tom Baker's first story clunk into the room as well. Oh, mistress, you must die. I'd like to see him come back, but he won't.
He won't, of course not.
The most uncomfortable suit ever.
There we go. So the Sea Devils mainly.
I think we're in absolute agreement. They would be great to come and get them back.
Our friends over at the Who Addicts says, how much does resolution need to be accessed for you personally? Since we have had a whole year with no Doctor Who after this, how much pressure is on there for this episode to be great for you personally? So, personally speaking, I'm in two minds about this because I think based on Series 11 that we've had, the New Year's Day special would need to go down as one of the best episodes in Doctor Who ever to sort of redeem, for me personally, the weaker parts of Series 11. And I honestly don't think the Chibbers has got it in him at the moment to do that. So I think for me personally, it needs to be a success just anyway. It needs to be a success. But for me personally, it will need to go, it would need to be some of the best Who we've ever seen to bring it back from where it's been.
It is quite important for me because I did, as I said recently, did have slightly fallen out of love with the show a little bit. Not with the previous classic era. I always love that, but there's no excitement or love for Jodie's Doctor for me at the minute. So it is personally quite important that this episode needs to do something for me to make me think, I'm actually, you know what, hit and miss Series 11. I'm quite on board with these guys again. So it does need to succeed in terms of that. I'm not going into it with any big expectations though at all, because like you just said, I don't think Chibnall's got it in him. No. I've seen no evidence from anything he's written for Doctor Who thus far that fills me with any confidence that he's got it in him to deliver what I think I need it to. But I'm not going to go into it with very high expectations. I just hope I come out of it thinking it was a good episode. That'll be fine for me. If I come out of it thinking, I enjoyed that, it doesn't need to blow my socks off, but I need to enjoy it. Because if I come out of it feeling like I did with the final, then that's going to be really bad news for me personally.
Yeah, exactly.
So I need to just enjoy it. It doesn't need to blow my socks off. But God, if I don't enjoy this Christmas special, it's not going to be good news.
Yes.
Yeah.
Connor McHale says, what stories outside of the TV series are you most looking forward to? Whether it's Big Finish, Titan, BBC Books, Lethbridge Stewart Books, etc. I don't know of too much that's coming up that I'm mega excited about. The only thing is the Big Finish story with Clive and... So that's going to be a really cool one, I think. Outside of that, the only other thing really is the big celebratory episode or story that they've got coming out of Big Finish. You know, the 20th anniversary. Is it 20th?
Yeah.
Something?
Something like that. Something like the big one.
Yeah, the big multi-doctor story thing. That's similar to what they did with...
Light at the End.
Yeah. So those two I'm really looking forward to. Otherwise, there's not really any books or other Big Finish really. Anything you're looking forward to?
No, I'm looking forward to that multi-doctor one, the celebration one, whatever it's called. I'm looking forward to the next, the 10th Doctor one with Donna and Wilf.
Oh, sorry, yeah, that's
Is it volume 3?
Yeah,
Must
volume
be.
3.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of big finished ones. Books, I don't know. I haven't really seen much coming out book-wise, so can't think of anything book-wise off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So a couple of big finish that are on my radar. They got some great Blake 7 coming up as well, which I know is not related, but I'm really looking forward to more Blake 7 from Blake. Yes. They do a great job with it, actually. They really do. So, yes.
Yeah. James Coleman, are you guys planning on doing any conventions or meetups in 2019? Would love to meet you guys one day.
I'm sure we will.
Yeah, I've already sorted out who I want to meet at Comic-Con Spring and the big one, and I want to try and get to an MCM con this year as well. I heard they're pretty good. I heard they're pretty good.
I've heard really mixed things about MCM because I've never done one, and I keep thinking every year, I might do one this year. And then I hear horror stories of how overcrowded they are and photo studios are. But I am still, you have to go and experience these things yourself because you'll always hear good and bad. So I might do an MCM this year. But yeah, I've got LFCC Spring on the radar.
Yes.
They got some good guests this year.
Yeah. We generally don't travel outside. We don't travel outside of London, really.
No.
For these things. I know there's plenty of stuff going on I know Wales Comic Con is getting bigger each year. That might be a good one to go to. I'm not sure about any up north, really. So it's normally the London ones. But in terms of the MCM one, mate, it can't be any worse than London Film and Comic Con at the Olympia some years. Jesus.
No.
It can't be any worse, can it?
And I will say this. Sorry, who asked the question? What was their name?
James Coleman.
James, I will say this as well, James. I'm not particularly fun to meet at conventions. I'm really not. I'm very stressy. I'm normally darting around trying to do a million things. The best events to meet us, and this ties in with what you originally asked, are the BFI events because I really enjoy them. B, I'm really relaxed because there's no trying to get to things, that are halfway across the room, and it's just a relaxed event. So I'm hoping we'll get one for season 18. I'm hoping they'll do a Fourth Doctor event at the BFI. I'm pretty sure they will. They're going to do one for the Macra Terror, which I'm really looking forward to. So in terms of meeting us, me personally, Gary's much more chilled than me, but me personally, I'm a ball of stress at conventions. I always feel bad when I bump into people because I've never got time to talk or whatever, and I'm normally quite miserable. I only enjoy them when they're over. Like the best event, part of the event for me is down the pub after. But you catch us at a BFI event, I think I'm in my element there, mate. I don't know about you. I love them. Yeah. The BFI bar, I just love the BFI events. That's the one to catch me at. Or Phantom, they're a lot more chilled. Catch me at a Phantom event.
They're cool.
Yeah, I'm not normally too. I normally enjoy those a lot. Yeah, they're in Chiswick, so they're good.
Yeah. So basically, if you can get to any of the London events, ideally the BFI showing, then that'll be the more chilled.
But yeah, you're okay. You'll be fine to meet Gary at LFCC, but I'm just a stress ball at those events.
It's quite amusing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lee Clow says, "Do you still think there's a chance that Torchwood will return to our screens?" No, I don't think so. And I'll be honest. Now we've started rewatching them, I kind of hate to say this, but I kind of think it's had its day. Yeah.
I think Big Finish are doing a good job with Torchwood.
Yeah, they are actually. Yeah.
From what I hear, because I don't have them because I just can't afford them. But I hear they're doing a good job. And I don't know. I just kind of think it's had its day. There was a time I really wanted it to come back. There was a time I would have loved to have seen it return.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of think it's had its day.
No, I don't think it will. And I think last year or the year before, John Barrowman really threw himself into it.
Desperate.
And he had meetings with the BBC and he had a run-in with the Moff over it and all that stuff. And he really had a big old push to try and get another series done. And in the end, he just relented and just accepted the fact it wasn't going to happen. And so he accepted the whole Big Finish thing. So I think that's where it's at with Big Finish. I can't see it making a return to TV.
I wouldn't mind seeing Captain Jack pop up in Dot 2 again at some point.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
That would be cool. But yeah.
Yes.
That's it.
Okay, let's have a look. Jessica Leffelman says, "My question is, out of all the Doctor or Companion announcements, which were you most excited to find out about and why?"
Out of all that, what, for Series 11?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. My question is, out of all, well, maybe not Series 11, but out of all the Doctor or Companion announcements, which were you most excited to find out about and why? So, Series 11, I guess it had to be the Doctor.
Yeah.
That was so intriguing because even before Jodie was announced, there was so much chat and hype about, will it be a female this time and that whole subject. So in terms of just intrigue alone, it would have been the Doctor for me for Series 11 in terms of announcements. But overall, I guess I was really excited to find out who was going to be in it after Clara left. Once they had done with the whole Clara thing, I was really intrigued to find out who they were going to replace her with, whether it was, again, similar thing, would it be a male companion, female, what they'd be like and all the rest of it. So that was that was a bit of a nice build-up for me in terms of who was going to replace Clara, because I think she'd overstayed her welcome personally for a bit. But
yeah.
What about you, mate? Anything you can think of? Any cool announcements for companions or Doctors?
That's a good shout. Actually, just before I answer, I'm just intrigued. Do you prefer the big Capaldi style half-hour show announcement, or did you like the little teaser that we got where Jodie arrived? Which do you prefer? Do you like the big build-up show or not?
I didn't like either of them.
You know, okay, all right, that answers that. Yeah, miserable old so-and-so. Because I'm always torn on that. I quite like, the one I liked was the Matt Smith one. When they did, it was again a bit like the Capaldi. They did like this little half-hour show, and then he was finally on the screen at the end. I don't know how they managed to keep that secret, you know. I quite enjoyed that, and that was a good build-up. I think I've got to agree with you about Bill, because there was quite a bit of excitement about who the new companion would be. I don't remember getting it with Amy and Rory for some reason. Were they announced alongside the Doctor? I really can't remember now. Were they in the trailer? Or I don't know.
I think Amy was.
Yeah, I just don't remember much of a build up to that, but it might just be the passing of time has erased it. But yeah, I mean, I was really that announcement for the 13th Doctor was possibly the biggest excitement for me, because I felt, because of the way the show had gone, and also I felt we were going to get something a bit different. I was amazed when it was, revealed to be our first female Doctor at the time. I was like, oh wow, they've actually done it. I was genuinely shocked. So I think that's got to go down as the biggest.
Yeah. I read you. Last question then. From Lawrence Baxter is, my question, I've been reading a lot of Doctor Who novels recently, so what are your favourites that you'd recommend and why?
Doctor Who novels?
Novels. I can't really comment too much on novels, but in terms of Doctor Who books, there's a few that I've read a couple of times, which are awesome. One of my favourites is from Russell T Davies, The Writer's Tale.
Oh, superb.
If you haven't read that yet, so that's a belter. That's sort of, it's like a behind the scenes look at Russell writing the final era of David Tennant's Who. And it's written in conjunction with Ben
Benjamin Cook, isn't it?
I think it's Ben Cook, yeah. And it's basically a series of emails between the two of them. And it's a real fascinating insight into Russell's, how he writes and things that happen along the way and stuff like that. And another book that's really good is Andrew Cartmell's The Script Doctor.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That's a really, really good book. So that goes through the whole final era of classic Doctor Who and the as they wound down McCoy's era and all that stuff. And so that's really good. In terms of other books and novels, there's a really, really good book about Target novels.
Oh, that is a good book. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't. Yeah. I mean, it's like
it lists them all, doesn't it? It talks about how Target over the years. It's a great book, those.
Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, there's a couple of some of the novelizations for stories like Rose is really good.
Yeah,
that's a really good story in book format.
I was going to say Rose. I remember you saying that you liked that because RTD sort of fleshed out a lot more of the story in that one.
Yes,
yeah, it's good.
Otherwise, it's hard to think when you're sort of on the spot. But I'm just looking over at the bookcase.
Yeah, I'm just doing the same. I remember I did enjoy City of Death by James Goss. He did a great job novelising that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what is good actually. The very first Lethbridge Stewart book from Candy Jar. That was really good when they kicked off their run for Lethbridge Stewart. So the first one of those is very, very good if you can pick that up.
Yeah. I also enjoyed, it's not a novel, but Barry Letts did a little book about his time on Doctor Who called, I think it's called Who and Me. I'm trying to see it on my shelf. Hang on.
I think that's what it is, yeah.
I've seen it. Yeah. I really enjoyed that. Some fun stories about John Pertwee being a cheeky so-and-so, nicking things from set and all that. But that was a great read. I also really like Matthew Waterhouse's book, Blue Box Boy. Even though he talks about himself in the third person all the way through, which is just bizarre, he does talk a lot about his time on set, meeting Tom Baker and stuff. And it's quite a cheeky book in many respects. It's typical Matthew Waterhouse, but I did really enjoy reading that actually. It's well worth a little read.
Yeah. Can't really, but there is one other book. Again, it's not a novel, but there's a book called Adventures with the Wife in Space.
Oh, yeah.
Which is by Neil Perryman. That's a really good book. Essentially, he's watching every single episode of Classic Who with his wife, and his wife she's not really into Doctor Who at all. So it's like their journey going through watching all of Classic Who from start to finish. So that's a really, really good book. And I actually had Neil on the show. He was my first guest. I think he was on like episode 2 or 3 or something. So go back and listen to that because he's a really cool guy, and he's brought out. I think he's done a Blake 7 version, Adventures with the Wife and Blake or something
7,
like that.
yeah.
So that's a really cool book. So I'm sorry, there's not sort of many novels, so to speak, but there's plenty of really good Doctor Who books in general to pick up. But hopefully that's given you a couple of ideas.
Yeah, Gareth Roberts did a good novelisation of Sharda as well. That's well worth picking up. I really enjoyed that.
Yes, that's true. Yeah,
that's good.
Yes. Otherwise, that's it. I mean, there was a couple of questions there. I couldn't read them all out because there's a ton of them, and there was a few that were just duplicates and stuff. So if I haven't read your question out, I'm very sorry. I've read them all, but just haven't got enough time to go through them all. So that's Q&A done. Hopefully that's answered the bulk of them. But we do need to tell you who's won the Blu-ray box sets.
Yeah.
So let's do that. Competition winners time. So we have got 2 copies of the season 19 Blu-ray limited edition box set to give away. Thank you to zoom.co.uk. Awesome as always. No hesitation in supplying those to give away. So thank you very much. Let me just make sure I've got my little macro fired up. So pick out a random person or persons in this case. Right, I've got the sound clip that you love.
I love this sound clip.
While this is churning away, let's do it. So 3, I'm going to hit the button. 3, 2, 1. Churning away. Here we go. 1 and 2. Right. The first winner is, he sent in a couple of questions. It's Elliot, also known as Rotide.
Oh, Rotide.
Elliot, or Rotide on Twitter.
Well done, man.
You've bagged one of those. And the other person is somebody called the Hoovianeer. I think is the right way to say it. They entered in on Twitter.
Hoovian's ear? As in an ear? Or
I think it's Hoovianer.
Hoovianer. Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, I know who that is. Yeah, well, I know them from Twitter. Yeah.
Yes.
I was thinking of a Hoovian ear, as in an earlobe.
As in a...
The Hoovian ear, listening to all your thoughts.
The Hoovianer, I think, is the right way.
Yes, I do know them, yeah.
Rotide, a.k.a. Elliot, and the Hoovianer. I will be in touch very shortly to get your mailing addresses. We'll get them out to you. Thank you so much to everyone else that entered. I'm sure we'll be doing a bunch more giveaways throughout 2019. I'm pretty sure we always do them from time to time. So thank you for entering. Well done, you guys, for winning. I'll be in touch, and I'll get those out to you. And I think that's going to do, mate, for 214 and for 2018.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you so much for sticking with us, literally sticking with us for this episode and all of 2018 and all the previous years. If you've been a long time listener, it's been a strange old year.
It's been a funny old year.
Yeah, we've waited a long time for Doctor Who, and I think in some respects we got a fairly good crack at the whip in this one, but also fair to say that yes, I think there's work to be done.
Yeah,
in some areas. Yes. In terms of 2018, you and I have had another cracking year for the podcast. Our listener count has gone up, as it does every year, which is great. So thank you, all of you, so much for subscribing to the show, chatting with us at events, sending in your audio clips, all that stuff, leaving reviews and ratings on iTunes and all that stuff. It's so appreciated, so much. Thank you so much. We love all of you. Yes. Just to confirm, there's no show now for a couple of weeks. Adam and I are going to take a couple of weeks off to put the feet up and chill and relax over Christmas and New Year. So our next show will be Friday, the 11th of January. And that will be a review of Resolution, the New Year's Day special. So nearer the time, we'll be asking for your thoughts on that. So just to confirm, no podcast for the next 2 weeks. We'll be back in January, all fresh and sober, hopefully. he says.
We'll see.
Yes. In the meantime, though, there's a ton of stuff to check out on Adam's YouTube channel, so head over there.
Yes.
The Geek's Handbag.
Indeed. Go and have a look.
Yes, just do a search on YouTube, The Geek's Handbag. Give him a sub and a like on his videos. So many cool videos, you can get lost for ages surfing through all that. And you're also on all the socials, aren't you? So
I am indeed.
The same name, The Geek's Handbag. Just do a search. Also, head over to our website, www.bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all of our previous episodes on there. Plus, you can link off to the various podcast networks to subscribe and the socials to do the same. It's all good. And if you're an iTunes listener, if you could spare a minute for a review and a rating, that would be amazing, because that really helps us lots and lots. So all that's left is to say another very big thank you to you all for 2018. It's been awesome. Have a very, very wonderful, merry, happy Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
And a brilliant new year. Hope you get all some
New Year.
Cool Doctor Who merch. And we'll see you on the Flip Flop. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember...